Chapter 1419. The golden-robed old man was extremely excited. His eyes burned with desire and yearning. This was the enticement of the 9th class. Once he reached the 9th class, he would become in existence like the holy emperor of the Tianyuan continent, standing above countless people. On the entire beast god continent, there were only 3 Class 9 magical beasts. Every single one of them ruled over a region. Most importantly, the golden-robed old man did not have much time left. If he did not break through, he would not have much time left. As a result, the 9th class possessed a fatal attraction to the golden-robed old man. Not only would it allow him to become the 4th most respected expert on the beast god continent, it would also allow him to live for over 4,000 years. Afterward, the golden-robed old man learned the exact location of the peak Class 7 golden-striped silver snake from the skinny old man. He directly ripped open a space gate and left. 10 million kilometers away, newbies continued to flee in a horrible fashion. Whenever the enemies behind him were about to catch up, he would flash with a golden light and suddenly increase his speed. He would shoot forward at an unbelievable speed, pulling away from his pursuers in a single moment. It made the Class 8 experts behind him grit their teeth, but there was nothing they could do about it. Along the way, whenever newbies came across an organization with a Class 8 magical beast, he would temporarily stop and provoke them, as if he was afraid that there would not be enough Class 8 experts pursuing him. As a result, the number of Class 8 experts pursuing him had increased from the initial 5 to 8. Why is this ancient mutated beast, the golden-striped silver snake, so hard to deal with? I don't know how many times he's used that secret technique along the way, but he still doesn't show the slightest sign of exhaustion. He's still as energetic as ever. Don't tell me that his frequent use of that secret technique doesn't cause any harm to him or consume his energy. This wasn't the first time that such a thought had appeared in the hearts of the 8 level 8 powerhouses in pursuit. Along the way, the 8 of them had exhausted all of their methods and used all of the methods they could use to restrain their enemies. However, these abilities that were sufficient to temporarily restrain powerhouses of the same level were completely ineffective against this mere peak level 7 silver striped golden snake before them. The peak Class 7 silver-striped golden snake was just too difficult to chase. Some of the Class 8 magical beasts had already considered giving up. However, as soon as they thought about how the despicable newbies had used poison to kill their clansmen for no reason, they immediately began to grit their teeth. Their eyes turned red with hatred as they began an endless pursuit of newbies. Once I catch him, I'll definitely skin him, eat his flesh, and drink his blood. So what if he's an ancient beast? If I catch him, I'll make him wish he was dead. God damn it, this golden-striped golden snake is clearly only at the peak of Class 7, yet he dares to provoke us fearlessly. This is abnormal. Is he scheming something? And his strength isn't the peak of Class 7 on the surface, but Class 8 long ago? Not all of the Class 8 magical beasts were brainless. Very soon, some of them sensed that something was wrong, but they did not give up on the chase. Ha ha ha! I, the great newbies, have caused quite a disturbance this time. 8 Class 8 magical beasts working together to hunt down a Class 7 beast will definitely cause a huge uproar on the beast god continent. It'll spread as quickly as possible. I wonder if that old snake has received the news, thought Jianchen. He seemed to be in a horrible shape, but in reality he did not even glance at the Class 8 magical beasts behind him. He advanced in a random direction as well. He ran wherever there was a city or tribe, and wherever there were more magical beasts he would run towards them. God damn it, if that old snake just happens to be in seclusion and doesn't receive the news, am I, the great newbies, going to be chased like this forever? With another thought, Newbies thought of an outcome that he did not wish to see the most. He immediately felt his head ache. However, at this moment, the space several dozen kilometers away from Newbies violently distorted. A space gate rapidly formed. Before anyone could be seen, an extremely powerful presence leaked out from the space gate. The space within a radius of several hundred kilometers actually began to ripple. The energy of the world seemed to have come to a halt. The powerful presence enveloped a radius of several hundred kilometers in a single moment, enveloping Newbies and the Class 8 magical beasts behind him. They immediately slowed down. Newbies' eyes flashed, and he suddenly turned to look at the space gate several dozen kilometers away. He purposefully slowed down as well. The Class 8 magical beasts behind him were all shocked. They all stopped their pursuit and stared at the space gate in shock. The presence was just too powerful. When it enveloped them, the 8 of them immediately felt like they were shouldering a mountain, causing their bodies to become much heavier. Even the space around them seemed to be compressed by the presence, causing them to feel like they were in a quagmire. It was extremely taxing. Peak Class 8. It's a Peak Class 8 expert. A burly man over 5 meters tall exclaimed. His expression became very serious. His true form was that of a huge white bear. With that, a golden-robed, golden-haired old man slowly stepped out of the space gate. His cold, emotionless eyes gave off a presence that seemed to look down on the world. He was like a king who stood above the 9 heavens and looked down on the world. However, the old man did possess the right to do so on the beast god continent. As a beast of antiquity who had reached the great perfection of the Holy Emperor, basically no one on the continent could suppress him aside from the 3 Class 9 experts. Newbies immediately became excited the moment he saw the old man. His eyes burned with desire, as if the old man was not a Peak Class 8 expert, but a shining treasure. At the same time, the old man also saw Newbies several dozen kilometers away. His gaze was the same as Newbies, filled with desire and excitement. The golden-robed old man took a step forward, and the space around him rippled slightly. He immediately vanished and reappeared several dozen kilometers away, right in front of Newbies. He stared at Newbies greedily and excitedly said, "Not bad, not bad. It really is a Peak Class 7 silver-striped golden snake. The heavens really are helping me. The heavens really are helping me." The 8 Class 8 magical beasts all stopped in the distance. They stared at the golden-robed old man in fear and dread. Even though Newbies, whom they loathed and wanted to kill immediately, was right before them and had stopped running, the 8 of them dared not approach him. The golden-striped silver snake vanished from the sky. Newbies had already returned to his human form, turning back into the handsome, golden-robed young man. He stared at the old man with burning desire as he curled his lips into a strange, evil smile. "Old man, I, the great Newbies, have finally lured you out. I never thought that your strength would exceed my expectations, reaching the peak of Class 8 and almost reaching Class 9. Newbies sneered. The expressions of the 8 Class 8 experts in the distance changed when they heard that. They all stared at Newbies in shock. None of them had thought that Newbies had provoked them all the way here just to create a commotion and draw out the Peak Class 8 expert before them. The old man in golden robe sneered, "Kid, you've miscalculated. Although you've hidden your strength from Class 8 to Class 7, the old man has reached Class 8 many years ago. He's at the peak of Class 8 now. Before the old man, you don't even have the ability to escape." Newbies laughed aloud as he stared at the old man in ridicule. "Old man who said I, the great Newbies, was going to run? You should be the one running." With that, a presence that caused the surroundings to tremble radiated from Newbies. The presence was far, far more powerful than the golden-robed old man's. When the presence permeated the surroundings, the ground seemed to sink from the pressure. The trees and various plants scattered across the area all shattered, directly crushed to pieces by the presence. The expressions of the 8 Class 8 powerhouses behind him changed drastically at that moment. Their eyes were filled with shock as their faces paled. They all stared at Newbies while trembling. They were terrified out of their wits. "Class 9, he's actually a Class 9 expert. We're actually chasing after a Type 9 expert. The 8 Type 8 experts held in grief. At this moment, their hearts were trembling, and their blood was flowing in reverse. They even had thoughts of dying. Chapter 1420. Newbies laughed aloud as he stared at the old man in ridicule. Old man who said that I, the great Newbies, was going to run? You should be the one running. With that, a presence that caused the surroundings to tremble radiated from Newbies. The presence was far more powerful than the golden-robed old man's. When the presence permeated the surroundings, the ground seemed to sink from the pressure. The trees and various plants that filled the area all shattered, directly crushed to pieces by the presence. The expressions of the 8 Class 8 powerhouses changed drastically at that moment. Their eyes were filled with shock and their faces paled. They all stared at Newbies, trembling in fear. Class 9. He's actually Class 9. We're actually pursuing an expert who's reached Class 9. The 8 Class 8 powerhouses held inside. At that moment, their hearts were trembling, and their blood was flowing in reverse. They even wanted to die. The old man lost his composure from before as well. He stared at Newbies in disbelief and cried out, "You're actually Class 9!" The old man was completely pale. Newbies' presence had already frightened him out of his wits. He was also a golden-striped silver snake of antiquity. He knew all too well what would happen if a golden-striped silver snake of antiquity encountered a golden-striped silver snake of the same race. Without any hesitation, the old man immediately turned around and fled as quickly as he could. At the same time, he used a secret technique. He vomited a mouthful of blood and immediately became much more haggard. He had paid a heavy price to flee with incomparable speed. He wanted to disappear before Newbies could react. He did not use a space gate because constructing a space gate required some time. If he tried to escape by constructing a space gate in front of a Class 9 magical beast, he would definitely die. It would be suicide without a doubt. Newbies sneered. I, the great Newbies, endured the humiliation and paid the heavy price of being chased across half the beast god continent by a few Class 8 magical beasts in order to lure you out after so much difficulty. If I let you escape just like that, wouldn't all my efforts have been for nothing? Newbies did not pursue the golden-robed old man. He sneered and extended a finger. Immediately, a golden streak of light shot out from his finger, chasing after the golden-robed old man who was about to vanish into the horizon with unbelievable speed. This golden light was only the size of a finger. If one looked carefully through the hazy golden light, one could vaguely see that there was a golden thread hidden inside. It was only as thick as a chopstick, but it hid an astonishingly terrifying energy. The golden threads pierced through space and disappeared into it. They seemed to be able to traverse space, ignoring the distance between them. In an instant, they caught up to the golden-robed old man who had already used a secret technique to flee far away. Then, they formed a huge net and enveloped the golden-robed old man. The old man's face changed, and he bellowed out at the sky. His body suddenly emitted an endless amount of golden light, and within the golden light, was a layer of blood-red light. Terrifying pulses of energy shook the surroundings, causing the space there to tremble violently. It seemed like it was about to shatter. He punched the sky, shattering the void. A terrifying energy transformed into a huge fist and punched towards the golden net that was descending from the sky. He wanted to shatter the net. After throwing out that punch, the old man's face became even paler. He knew exactly what would happen if he was caught by Newbies. As a result, not only did he erupt with the full power of the Holy Emperor at absolute perfection in order to escape, but he also used a secret technique to burn his essence blood to escape. The punch he threw out was also a shocking attack that he had used to burn his essence blood. The old man did not care about the outcome of the punch. He continued to burn his essence blood, bearing the consequences of damaging his vitality as he fled like crazy. He knew that with his power as a holy emperor at absolute perfection, he would not be able to outrun the holy emperor. Only by burning his essence blood would he be able to escape with his life. The golden fist shattered the void, and wherever it passed, the space would crack. It carried with it a terrifying might that seemed capable of destroying the world as it collided with the golden fist that was descending from the sky. There was no great boom when the two collided. However, the golden net protruded from the golden fist. The old man's attack that he had used to burn his essence, blood, failed to shatter the golden net. "You're only at Class 8, yet you dare to stand up to me, the great newbies?" Newbies sneered in the distance. A golden thread connected his finger to the golden net. With a thought, the golden net immediately began to shrink, wrapping around the golden fist and rapidly whittling away at its energy. At the same time, another strand of golden thread split off from the golden net. With the golden net as its root, it pierced through space and vanished. It traversed space and space, completely ignoring the restriction of distance between them. In an instant, it caught up to the golden-robed old man who was fleeing ahead. The golden-robed old man clearly sensed the golden thread chasing after him. His expression immediately changed. However, this time the golden thread was like an arrow released from a bow. It did not give the golden-robed old man any time to react. It turned into a faint golden light and pierced into the golden-robed old man's back. It pierced through his body and came out from his chest. Then the golden thread immediately wrapped around the golden-robed old man, binding him like a dumpling. Looking at it now, this thin golden thread had already extended for dozens of miles, crossing the entire sky, stretching from the eastern horizon to the western horizon. If one were to stand in the middle, they would not be able to see where the two ends of the golden thread were connected. In just a single breath of time, the golden-robed old man had already fled dozens of miles away. The golden thread was not actually able to travel through space. It was just too fast. Newbies pulled with his finger, and the old man immediately appeared before him. Looking at the pale-faced old man, Newbies could not help but laugh aloud. "Old man, you can't be arrogant anymore, can you? You even tried to devour my essence to reach Class 9. Aren't you a silver-striped golden snake that has just entered the 9th level? Even if this old man is no match for a powerhouse that has just entered the 9th level, I would not be completely helpless. At the very least, I would be able to resist a few moves. Could it be that you have already entered the 9th level for many years? That's impossible. Old man has never heard of a 4th Class 9 expert other than the 3 from the Beast God continent," the old man said with a trembling voice. Chapter 14:21. Impossible, this is impossible. After one strength reaches the 8th stage, every step forward in the 9th stage is very difficult. As for the 9th stage, every step forward is several times more difficult than the 8th stage. Since you have just become a martial emperor, it is absolutely impossible for you to break through the first heavenly layer of the 9th stage and reach the higher 9th stage in such a short time. The old man was stunned. Even though he felt despair, he also found it very difficult to believe that Newbies' strength would soar so quickly after reaching Class 9. Newbie smiled even more happily when he saw how dejected the old man was. He felt extremely carefree inside. He had learned that there was an extremely powerful golden-striped silver snake on the Beast God continent many years ago, which was why he had always hidden himself in the outskirts of the Cross Mountains. He did not join the Gilligan clan in the depths of the mountains because he wanted to avoid the threat of the Beast God continent. This was because he was only Class 7 back then, so he felt an innate fear and dread toward the old snake he had never seen before. He was extremely worried that the old snake would secretly infiltrate the Tianyuan continent to deal with him, so he chose to cultivate in the outskirts of the Cross Mountains. It was the closest place to Mercenary City. If the old snake really did come to the Tianyuan continent, he could flee to Mercenary City. It could be said that the old snake of the Beast God continent was like an invisible mountain that weighed down on Newbies' heart. He felt extremely pressured, so much so that he had to be careful when he went out. He was afraid that the news of him being a golden-striped silver snake would spread and even more people would learn about it. Afterwards, the old snake of the beast god continent infiltrated the Tianyuan continent and was slain by the grand elder of mercenary city, Tianjian. His corpse was given to newbies. After devouring the essence of the old snake, newbies inherited a small portion of the old snake's memories. He learned from the memories that there was actually an even more powerful old snake on the beast god continent. The old snake that had died to Tianjian's hands was controlled by an even more powerful old man. When newbies learned about this, his heart sank to rock bottom. He became even more fearful and fearful of the powerful old snake. The beast god continent became a forbidden zone for him once again, and now newbies felt an indescribable sense of pleasure when he saw Old Snake, who had caused him great psychological pressure, unable to retaliate at all. At this moment, he simply wished for nothing more than to roar into the sky. It's a pity that the great medicine that the old man spent so much effort to nurture has died on the Tianyuan continent, or the old man might have become a saint emperor already, the golden-robed old man murmured. His face was filled with reluctance. At this moment, the 8 magical beasts that had pursued newbies earlier all concealed their presences and began to retreat silently. They wanted to use this opportunity to escape. The 8 of them were scared out of their wits. Their faces were pale, without a trace of blood. Their bodies were trembling slightly, and their hearts were filled with intense fear. Some of them were even filled with regret. They all cursed newbies inside. He was a mighty Class 9 expert, yet he had disguised himself as a Class 7 magical beast to trick them. In the end, the 8 of them had boldly chased a Class 9 magical beast across most of the beast god continent. If they had known earlier that newbies was a Class 9 magical beast, they would not have dared to chase him even if they were 100 times bolder. Newbies' eyes narrowed as a mocking smile appeared on his lips. He slowly turned his head to look at the 8 fleeing Class 8 magical beasts and said, "Little guys, I, the great newbies, have been chased by you for so long. So why do you want to flee so silently?" The 8 Class 8 magical beasts immediately trembled violently when they heard what newbies had said. They were so frightened that their hearts almost jumped out. Their faces all became extremely ugly, filled with some despair. Newbies extended a finger, and a silver thread shot out, binding the 8 Class 8 magical beasts together. He chuckled aloud. "Little guys, I'll teach you a lesson once I deal with this old snake." Afterward, newbies mercilessly killed the golden-robed old man. He used a secret technique to devour the old man's essence on the spot. This was the second golden-striped silver snake that newbies had devoured. When he devoured the first one, he was only a saint ruler, while the golden-striped silver snake had reached the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. It was far, far more powerful than newbies, so it took newbies an extremely long time to devour the first golden-striped silver snake's essence. At the same time, his strength increased by leaps and bounds. Now that newbies' strength had reached the level of the Holy Emperor, devouring the old snake that was only at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor obviously would not increase his strength. However, it would strengthen his essence by quite a lot, benefiting him greatly. Newbies' entire body flickered with a faint golden light after devouring the old snake's essence. His strength remained at the same level as before, but the presence he gave off seemed to have become even more powerful. Afterward, newbies looked at the 8 Class 8 magical beasts and snickered. "It's your turn now. You've chased me, the great newbies, for so long, so how should I deal with you?" The 8 Class 8 magical beasts tensed up. A few of them immediately dropped to their knees, constantly kowtowing as they begged for mercy. Newbies smiled strangely. He circled around the 8 Class 8 magical beasts a few times and said after a moment of thought, "Whatever. Although I, the great newbies, have been chased across half the beast god continent by you, I probably wouldn't have been able to draw out the old snake if I hadn't done that. Now that I've successfully devoured the old snake's essence, I've achieved my objective, so I'm in a good mood. I'll spare you. However, I can spare you the death penalty, but I can't escape punishment. As for the punishment, you will have to treat me, the great newbies, as your leader. Do you have any objections?" The 8 magical beasts were overjoyed as if they had just been pardoned. They called out in a hurry, "Thank you, great newbies Kane. From today onwards, we are willing to listen to the orders of the great newbies." The 8 of them were extremely emotional. The punishment newbies had mentioned was not a punishment at all in their eyes. Instead, it was a blessing that many large tribes could only dream of. The Beast God continent was far crueler than the Tian Yuan continent. Even large organizations with Class 8 magical beasts would often engage in battle, and the annihilation of entire clans was a common occurrence. Although they were ruled by the 3 supreme experts of the Beast God Hall, they would never interfere with the battles of their subordinates. This was because the 3 supreme experts of the Beast God Hall each possessed countless organizations of various sizes in their territories. Even the destruction of a large organization would not draw too much attention from the 3 supreme experts. However, Newbies was different. According to their understanding, Newbies had only reached Class 9 recently, but he possessed strength greater than regular Class 9 magical beasts. He just happened to not have any organizations under him. If the 8 of them submitted to him, they would become the first group of organizations under Newbies. They would obviously be treated with special importance, and their statuses would be extraordinary. Newbies smiled in satisfaction. He waved his hand and said, "You can go. As for your clansmen, their lives are not in any danger. I, the great Newbies, have only made them faint. They should have woken up by now. Oh, right, don't forget to erect a statue of me, the great Newbies, in your clans after your return. The statue must be completely made of gold. Only then will it be worthy of my great status as the great Newbies." The 8 Class 8 magical beasts nodded in a hurry. They all carefully glanced at Newbies and memorized Newbies' appearance. After the 8 Class 8 magical beasts left, Newbies rolled up his wide sleeves, immediately revealing his golden-skinned arm. A layer of golden light flowed under his skin as strange inscriptions covered his entire arm. At a closer glance, Chapter 1422. Newbies immediately smiled faintly when he saw the strange patterns that seemed like snake scales but were different from snake scales. He became rather excited as he murmured, "This old snake's essence is much more abundant than the old snake I absorbed from the Holy Emperor's 4th heavenly layer. I feel like I, the great Newbies, have ingested a shocking tonic, causing extremely obvious changes to my body. Although my strength remains at the same level as before, I feel like my battle prowess has become much more powerful than before. This old snake must have devoured the essence of some of his clansmen before, which is why his essence is so abundant." Newbies rolled up his sleeve, immediately hiding his faintly golden arm. He raised his head to look at the continent that he had once yearned for and feared. He murmured, "This Beast God continent really is a great place. It's just too suitable for magical beasts to live here. The magical beasts that grow up here are definitely much more powerful than those on the Tian Yuan continent. It's just a pity that it's no longer as attractive to me as before. And this old snake, he's been on the Beast God continent for several thousand years. Although it's impossible for him to know every corner of the continent like the back of his hand, it's not too difficult for him to spread his spies across the entire continent with his strength. Once a golden-striped silver snake appears on the Beast God continent, they definitely won't be able to escape his notice. All the golden-striped silver snakes on the continent have probably been killed by this old snake. There's no need for the great Newbies to remain here. Whatever. I'll go find Jianchen on 3 Saint Island." With that, Newbies shot off into the distance as a golden streak of light. He did not use a space gate and instead flew through the air. He admired the scenery along the way as he leisurely made his way to 3 Saint Island. When the 8 magical beasts of the 8th step returned to their respective clans, they discovered that Newbies had not harmed their clansmen. The poisonous mist he had spat out had only caused them to faint, and there was no threat to their lives. At this moment, all the clansmen who had been knocked out by the poisonous mist were already alive and kicking. Only a few weaker clansmen had not fully recovered, and their faces were as pale as paper. However, the dense forest around their tribe had been reduced to ashes by Nubes' poisonous fog. Only a few strong 1,000-year-old trees were left standing in their original places, having lost their vitality. However, the 8 magical beasts that had managed to escape completely ignored the destruction of their surroundings. Seeing that their clansmen were all safe and sound, they were all extremely excited. They all secretly thanked Nubes for his magnanimity, and immediately ordered their clansmen to begin collecting gold. In the end, they used a large amount of gold to create a golden statue that stood in the center of the tribe. Naturally, the statue was Nubes. It was several hundred meters tall and had been personally carved by the 8 magical beasts. They had made Nubes' appearance extremely lifelike. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had already stayed on 3 Saint Island for over half a month. During that time, he spent more than half of his time by Xiao Bao's side. He guided Xiao Bao in cultivation and passed on various knowledge to him, including battle techniques and so on. He had basically passed on everything he knew to Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was young, but he was very sensible. He seemed to know that Jianchen would leave soon, so he treasured the time he spent with Jianchen very much. He would memorize everything Jianchen taught him and study it seriously. He worked extremely hard on cultivation as well, due to the vast amount of cultivation resources and the fact that the early stages of the chaotic body did not require him to comprehend the laws of the world. Xiao Bao's cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. He had already reached the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. The cultivation levels of the innate chaotic body differed greatly from the normal chaotic body. The innate chaotic body was divided into 4 major realms, which were the minor achievement, partial achievement, major achievement, and great perfection. It was unlike Jianchen's normal chaotic body, which required him to shatter his core 18 times. His strength would increase by several levels each time he shattered his core. If he did not shatter his core, his strength would not increase at all. As a result, Xiao Bao could clearly sense every increase in his strength. During this time, Jianchen and the Heavenly Enchantress would chat from time to time. Even though the topic of conversation revolved around Xiao Bao, their relationship had improved slightly. Although the Heavenly Enchantress still treated Jianchen coldly, she was no longer as cold as before. The Heavenly Enchantress had also consumed the 5th grade Violet Cloud Peach and Comprehension Tea that Jianchen had given her. He could clearly sense that the Heavenly Enchantress had become even more powerful than before. However, since the Heavenly Enchantress walked a different path, Jianchen had no idea just how powerful she had become without sparring with her. Xiao, Qian, Xiaoyu, and Qin Qin were not outsiders, so they obviously received assistance from Jianchen as well. He gave them 5th grade Violet Cloud Peaches and Comprehension Tea, which greatly increased their strength. Although they did not summon any rainbow clouds, the 3 of them had all become Holy Emperor, including Qin Qin. They also possessed the ability to rip open space gates. Logically speaking, Qin Qin's strength was not enough for her to become a Holy Emperor, but she had absorbed slightly more energy from the Violet Cloud Peaches than Xiao, Qian, and Xiaoyu, which was why she had become a Holy Emperor in the end. Soon after her breakthrough, Qin Qin bid farewell to Jianchen and the Heavenly Enchantress using the excuse of missing home. She left 3 Saint Island. Xiao Qian and Xiaoyu used the excuse of visiting their junior sister's family to leave with Qin Qin. In the end, only Jianchen, the Heavenly Enchantress, and Shangguan Aojin remained on 3 Saint Island. It immediately became even more desolate. On this day, the sun shone brightly while the sea was calm. A golden streak of light shot over from the distant horizon, heading toward 3 Saint Island with unbelievable speed. I, the great Nubes, am a magical beast. My soul is innately weaker than a human's. Even though I, the great Nubes, am a beast of antiquity, I can't change this fact, which is why I was completely suppressed by that demoness who was skilled in soul attacks. However, my strength is no longer the same as before. I'm no longer the puny class 7 from before. I'll definitely bully that demoness properly this time and avenge the humiliation from back then. Nubes flew over the sea as an evil smile appeared on his face. Back then, I, the great Nubes, was only class 7 while that demoness was only a saint ruler. Now that I've reached class 9, I'm equivalent to the holy emperor of the Tian Yuan continent. That demoness' strength definitely can't increase as quickly as mine. She might still be stuck at the same level as before. Her way of the zither is no longer a threat to me. I wonder what her expression will be like when she sees me, the great Nubes, display the strength of the holy emperor. She'll definitely be extremely shocked. Ha! Nubes could not help but laugh aloud when he thought up to there. He had only felt fear for 2 people in his life. One of them was Old Snake from the Beast God continent, while the other was obviously the heavenly enchantress. When he had come to 3 Saint Island with Gentian for the first time, the heavenly enchantress had scared him to the point that he had fled 1,000 kilometers away. He no longer dared to set foot on the island because her zither music was just too terrifying. Nubes felt like his body and even his soul had almost been controlled by the music, which made him feel a deep fear for the heavenly enchantress. Chapter 14:23. Although Nubes did not use a space gate, he still flew very quickly through the air. His body fused with the surrounding space and shone with dazzling golden light. He shot through the air like a meteor, silently making his way to 3 Saint Island extremely quickly. Gentian and the heavenly enchantress sensed Nubes' arrival when he was 100 kilometers away from the island. They both looked into the distance. The heavenly enchantress' eyes were cold and emotionless. Only a sliver of surprise flashed through her eyes. However, Gentian faintly smiled. He glanced at Xiao Bao, who was cultivating before him, before standing up and making his way out of the cave. With Nubes' speed, 100 kilometers passed in the blink of an eye. Very soon, a golden streak of light appeared in the horizon, approaching the island with unbelievable speed. In the end, it directly descended on the island, revealing the golden-robed, long-haired Nubes. It was also at this moment that Gentian took a step forward as well. He crossed several hundred meters and appeared before Nubes. He carefully studied Nubes and said, "Your presence is much stronger than before. You must have benefited quite a lot from your trip to the Beast God continent this time." Nubes chuckled and proudly replied, "Of course. There's nothing that I, the great Nubes, can accomplish when I personally take action. This trip to the Beast God continent is indeed extremely meaningful to me. After devouring the essence of that old snake, I feel like my great Nubes bloodline has become even purer. Although it hasn't undergone an obvious transformation yet, it's one step closer to the next transformation." Nubes seemed to realize something as soon as he finished speaking. He immediately looked at Gentian strangely and said, "Gentian, what's so special about 3 Saint Island that you want to stay on for so long? Have you really fallen for that demoness?" "Oh right, where's that demoness?" Nubes looked around, but he failed to find any traces of the heavenly enchantress. However, he soon jolted and shock filled his face. He cried out, "What did I discover? A child who's not even 10 years old is actually a saint ruler. Is this true?" Before he had even finished speaking, Nubes turned into a blur and shot toward Shangguan Aojin's cave. Although Shangguan Aojin's seclusion location was several kilometers away and the path was winding, making it impossible to see that location with the naked eye, Nubes was a saint emperor after all. Nothing on the island could be hidden from him unless the person was far more powerful than him, to the point where he could not sense them. Jianshan wanted to stop him when he saw Nubes make his way to Shangguan Aojin's cave, but he hesitated. This was because he knew that it was impossible for Shangguan Aojin's identity to remain hidden forever. In the end, he did not stop Nubes and followed behind Nubes. Newbies moved very quickly, arriving outside Shangguan Aojian's cave in the blink of an eye. Just when he was about to enter, someone moved even faster than him. With a flash, the heavenly enchantress suddenly appeared at the entrance of the cave with her zither of the demonic cry, blocking Newbies' path. "Leave immediately!" the heavenly enchantress coldly ordered with her back to Newbies. Her devilish figure seemed very delicate, but when she stood there, she gave people a feeling that she was unsurpassable. At this moment, her body seemed to have become a wall that separated the entire world, dividing the inside and outside of the cave into two different worlds. A gleam of light flashed through Newbies' eyes. Although he could sense that the heavenly enchantress was different from before, he was unable to tell her strength at all. However, he believed that even if her strength had increased, it would be limited. She would not be able to threaten him, so he did not take it to heart. Instead, he said loudly, "Demoness, looks like your strength has increased quite a lot in the past few years. The great Newbies have actually let you get ahead of me in a moment of carelessness. However, Demoness, I did fear you very much in the past, but now you're as weak as an ant in my eyes. If you know what's good for you, move aside quickly. Don't block the way. Let me see the little guy inside." The heavenly enchantress' gaze immediately became even colder when she heard Newbies refer to her as a demoness. A vicious light flickered through her eyes, and she coldly said, without even looking back, "Three Saint Island does not welcome you. Leave immediately, or—" Before the heavenly enchantress could finish speaking, Newbies interrupted her. He sniggered. "Or what? Are you going to attack me mercilessly? Come, come. The great Newbies will take it all. I'd like to see what you can do." Jianqin had already arrived and was watching from afar. He did not interfere, only looking at Newbies in sympathy. Now that the heavenly enchantress had ingested a 5th-grade violet cloud peach, even Jianqin had no idea just how powerful she had become. However, he was certain that the heavenly enchantress was not someone Newbies could contend against. "Jianqin, have you fallen in love with this demoness for a very long time? But don't worry, I'll help you with this. I'll capture this demoness right now and make her your woman in bed," Newbies carelessly said. He did not notice the faint killing intent that had appeared in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. Newbies' last sentence had basically touched the heavenly enchantress' bottom line. Ding! Almost as soon as Newbies finished speaking, the heavenly enchantress plucked her zither. Although she had only played a single note, it was like a thunderclap in Newbies' ears. It caused his body to violently tremble and his soul to tremble. Newbies' face drastically changed. He stared at the heavenly enchantress in disbelief. His face was filled with disbelief. He was already a saint emperor now. Although his soul could not be compared to human saint emperors, it was without a doubt much more powerful than when he was at Class 7. However, to his shock, he discovered that his soul still struggled to block the attacks from the heavenly enchantress' soul, even though it had become much more powerful. "I'd like to see how you play the zither once I capture you." Newbies made up his mind. Extending a finger, a golden thread shot out with lightning speed, forming a huge net that enveloped the heavenly enchantress. The heavenly enchantress' face was frosty. A dark light flashed through her enchanting eyes, causing people to shiver. She gently plucked the zither with a single hand, producing a series of tinkling sounds. The music seemed beautiful, but it was also as heavy as war drums at times. It was unpredictable, and with each note, visible sound waves would appear in the surroundings. As soon as Newbies' net of golden threads came in contact with the layers of sound waves, it encountered great resistance. It was actually unable to envelop the net no matter what, and it was constantly pushed back by the sound waves. Newbies was shocked when he saw this. The outcome was completely different from what he had imagined. He had never thought that the heavenly enchantress would be able to hold her ground against him in a head-on clash. However, before Newbies could react, the heavenly enchantress' hand gesture changed. She plucked 7 strings at the same time, producing 7 beautiful but heavy notes that were like war drums. Every single note was accompanied by a visible sound wave, causing ripples in space. However, when Nubis heard the 7 notes, his body violently trembled. He immediately paled. The 7 notes exploded in Nubis's head like thunder. When the 4th note exploded in Nubis's head, he staggered backwards uncontrollably. The 5th note made Nubis grunt. He was already injured, staggering several dozen meters back. The 6th note made Nubis bleed from the corner of his mouth. He staggered several hundred meters back. The 7th note made Nubis vomit blood. His body trembled and his consciousness blurred. He had become rather unsteady. The heavenly enchantress' gaze was cold. Nubis had crossed her bottom line, so she clearly did not plan on letting him go so easily. She placed a finger on the 8th string and was about to pluck it. Jianshin's face changed. Although he knew that the heavenly enchantress was very powerful, he had never thought that she would be this powerful. Nubis had actually suffered such a thorough defeat despite being a holy emperor. This completely surprised him. Seeing how the heavenly enchantress still did not plan on letting Nubis go, he immediately called out, "Stop! Don't hurt Nubis." Chapter 14:24. Since he's humiliated me, he must pay the price. I won't kill him, but I won't let him off so easily, the heavenly enchantress coldly said. The heavenly enchantress coldly said. She slapped the zither of the demonic cry with her fair hand, and the zither immediately shot toward Jianshin with an extremely powerful pulse of energy. As the zither shot out, it shattered space, creating a pitch-black crack in space as it flew through the air. It hung there like a black thread. The strength of the attack had actually reached the level of a holy emperor's attack and far exceeded that of a regular holy emperor's attack. Although the heavenly enchantress was skilled in the way of the zither, using music to fight her enemies, her strength was not just based on music. At the same time, even if she gave up on the music she was skilled in, her strength would still be extremely terrifying. Jianshin was stern. He did not dare to underestimate the heavenly enchantress attack. Although he could fight against receival experts with his current battle prowess, that was only because of the azulite swords. If he gave up on the swords, his strength would be drastically reduced. However, Jianshin clearly could not use the swords against the zither of the demonic cry. A gleam of light flickered through Jianshin's eyes as chaotic force circulated within him. At the same time, a layer of dazzling white light condensed around him. It radiated with surging sword chi, forming a white barrier that enveloped Jianshin. Jianshin had already used the protective light he had comprehended from the laws of the sword to block the heavenly enchantress attack without using the swords. Just as Jianshin finished his preparations, the zither of the demonic cry approached him with tremendous energy. Jianshin suddenly struck out with his right hand, colliding with the zither of the demonic cry. Bang! The two of them collided, immediately erupting with a heavy boom. Even though the two of them had controlled their energy very well, preventing it from spreading too much and destroying the mountain, the rocks on the ground still cracked. The entire mountain shook gently. The toughness of the zither of the demonic cry was shocking. Jianshin felt like he had struck an extremely tough piece of metal with his palm strike. The powerful force caused his entire right arm to become slightly numb while his body began to stagger back uncontrollably from the force. The zither of the demonic cry came to a halt, having been stopped by Jianshin. However, it did not return to the heavenly enchantress' hand. Instead, it hovered in the air without moving. At this moment, Jianshin smelled a fragrance. The heavenly enchantress had appeared before Nubis with lightning speed as a violet streak of light. She gently struck Nubis' chest with her palm. Her true intentions were only to teach Nubis a lesson. Attacking Jianshin with the zither of the demonic cry was only to keep Jianshin busy. Nubis' soul had yet to recover from the effects of the zither. He stood there blankly as his mind was in a mess. As a result, he was unable to block the heavenly enchantress' palm strike. He was blown far away by the heavenly enchantress' gentle palm strike. He flew several hundred meters before falling to the ground. He then rolled down the cliff in an extremely horrible fashion. Genshin gently sighed as he watched Newbies roll down the cliff. He felt rather helpless. Of all the people Newbies could have offended, he just had to offend the heavenly enchantress whose strength he was unable to discern. He was just asking for trouble. Genshin did not help Newbies. He allowed him to smash through rocks and crush weeds as he rolled down the cliff. With his body as a Class 9 magical beast, a collision like this would not be able to harm him too much. However, his appearance was just a little too horrible, which was detrimental to his status as the Holy Emperor. However, the strength the heavenly enchantress had displayed surprised Genshin. He believed that this was not her full strength either. The heavenly enchantress left with the zither of the demonic cry with a sunken face, leaving Genshin standing there helplessly. Newbies had already woken up at the foot of the mountain. His wounds were not severe, but his confidence had taken a heavy blow. He stood there dejectedly as deep fear had reappeared in the depths of his eyes, especially when he saw the clearly crushed weeds that extended in a straight line from the top of the mountain to the front of him. He even had the thought of killing himself. Demoness, what a terrifying Demoness! Newbies no longer dared to stay on 3 Saint Island. As soon as he woke up, he did not stay any longer, immediately fleeing the island. At the same time, he said to Genshin through a communication technique, "Brother, I'll be going first. I'll wait for you 10,000 kilometers away." Genshin shook his head with a bitter smile as he watched Newbies flee. He then returned to the cave to watch over Xiaobao. Afterward, Genshin remained on 3 Saint Island for a few more days. After Xiaobao completely grasped the knowledge he had imparted to him, Genshin knew that it was time for him to leave. The next day, Genshin bid farewell to Xiaobao and the heavenly enchantress. He left behind another batch of heavenly resources for Xiaobao's cultivation before leaving 3 Saint Island without any hesitation. He flew toward the vast sea. Genshin also left behind a total of 10 fifth-grade violet cloud peaches for the mother and son. Along with the same amount of comprehension tea leaves, it was enough for them to use for 500 years. "Father, you have to come back and visit me soon. I'll be waiting for you here." Xiaobao waved at Genshin as he stood on 3 Saint Island. He didn't get a reply from his father. His father had already disappeared into the horizon, and there was no trace of him. The heavenly enchantress also stared blankly in the direction that Genshin had vanished in. Her emotions were mixed, and no one knew what she was thinking. 10,000 kilometers away, Genshin reunited with Newbies. Although several days had already passed, Newbies still seemed rather dispirited. Clearly, he still had not recovered from what had happened a few days ago. "Genshin, I, the great Newbies, swear that I will never go to 3 Saint Island again. I never want to see that Demoness again," Newbies said resentfully as soon as he saw Genshin. Everything that had happened a few days ago was unforgettable to Newbies. He would never be able to forget it for the rest of his life. Back when he had gone to 3 Saint Island from the Beast God continent, he had been filled with pride and confidence. But the end result was horrible. Genshin was stunned when he heard that. He then broke into laughter and said, "I'm going to the Beast God continent. Are you coming?" Newbies was surprised. He immediately became interested. "The Beast God continent? Is it the Beast God Hall? You want the young winged tiger to enter the Beast God Hall to accept the legacy?" "That's right," Genshin replied confidently. He was at ease. I, the great Newbies, have never seen what the Beast God Hall looks like. I'll go with you this time. Even if we're surrounded by 3 Class 9 magical beasts, I won't be afraid," Newbies chuckled. Chapter 1425. The Beast God Hall was located at the center of the Beast God continent. A majestic hall hovered 10,000 meters in the air, shining brightly. The hall was extremely large, reaching 10,000 meters in length, width, and height. It seemed like a small city. The divine hall was known as the Beast God Hall. It possessed an irreplaceable status on the beast god continent because it had been forged from the essence of the earth by the winged tiger in ancient times. It was a sacred place in the hearts of all magical beasts on the beast god continent, as well as a place where the experts of the continent cultivated. There were a total of 99 floors in the beast god hall. Each floor was 100 meters long, and each floor was extremely large. Aside from the 99th floor, which no one could enter, the other 98 floors were occupied by the 98 most powerful people of the continent. The top 3 floors were where the 3 Class 9 experts of the continent cultivated. However, the beast god continent had suffered heavy losses from the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. The 99th floor of the beast god hall had become much more spacious. Over 2/3 of it was unoccupied. A person sat on each floor of the 96th, 97th, and 98th floors. They were the 3 most powerful people on the beast god continent: the Holy Emperor, the Tiger Emperor, the Pung Emperor, and Kaiser. However, the 3 of them were sickly pale right now. They were haggard and weak. The 3 of them had suffered heavy injuries in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. Without the treatment of Radiant Saint Masters, they would not be able to recover in a short amount of time, even with their powerful cultivation as Class 9 magical beasts. However, at this moment, the 3 of them suddenly snapped open their eyes at the same time. They stared in the same direction with shining eyes. Their gazes seemed to be able to pierce through the obstruction of the divine hall and clearly see the world outside. At the same time, 100 kilometers away from the beast god hall, the calm space suddenly rippled. Afterwards, a space gate rapidly appeared, and Newbies and the white-robed Gentian walked out side by side. They hovered 10,000 meters in the air and had a wide field of vision. Even though the beast god continent was covered in mountains, they could still clearly see the huge, majestic divine hall from 100 kilometers away. Is this the beast god temple? Although I, the great Newbies, am a beast man, this is the first time I've seen the supreme temple of Paragon in the hearts of all beastmen. Newbies murmured as he stared at the temple in the distance. He had been here once before, but because he was afraid of the 3 holy emperor of the beast race, he didn't set foot here. Gentian also studied the beast god temple. The beast god temple before him was 10,000 meters in length, width, and height. The entire divine hall seemed like a cube, which made it seem rather different from the other divine halls. However, although its appearance was nothing special, Jian could clearly sense an extremely terrifying pulse of energy within the beast god temple. The pulse of energy was so powerful that it even surprised him. The beast god temple is definitely much more powerful than Poseidon's supreme divine hall, Jian thought. At that moment, he could not help but compare the beast god temple to the supreme divine hall in Mercenary City. The beast god temple had been created by one of the 4 supreme experts of ancient times, the winged tiger, while the supreme divine hall in Mercenary City had been left behind by the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan. The 2 divine halls possessed extraordinary significance on their respective continents. They were the greatest creations of humans and magical beasts. Although I've been to the divine hall left behind by Senior Mo Tianyan before, I was just too weak back then. Although I could sense that the divine hall was extraordinary, I was unable to see through it as clearly as I can now, Jian thought. He could not help but think of the floating divine hall he had seen when he first met Tianjian. Jian and Newbies flew towards the beast god temple together. Before the 2 of them could approach the divine hall, 3 figures flew out at the same time. They all stared at the 2 of them. The 3 of them were the strongest experts of the beast god continent. Aside from the holy emperor of the Pung clan, Psangqiong, who smiled indifferently, Kaiser and Lankiros both had extremely sunken faces. They were very ugly. If Jian was still the Jian of the past, just his identity as a human would have been enough to shatter him to pieces, let alone his grievances with the 2 experts of the beast god hall. However, his great strength had given Jian the ability to look down on the world. Even though they had grievances with Gentian in the past, Kaiser and Lankiros dared not say anything when they saw Gentian swagger his way towards the beast god temple. They did not dare to do anything even though they were furious. So it's Sovereign Gentian. Our Pung clan welcomes Sovereign Gentian on behalf of the beast god continent. If Sovereign Gentian needs any help from us, please feel free to let us know. The Holy Emperor of the Pung clan clasped his hands at Gentian and smiled. He was neither haughty nor humble. Then he glanced past the sunken Kaiser and Lankiros and seemed to take pleasure in their misfortune. Gentian had an extremely good impression of the Pung Emperor. He even felt a sliver of admiration for him because he was the only one of the 3 holy emperors who had not gotten involved with Xiaobai. At the same time, the Pung Emperor had not made things difficult for Gentian when they fought over the Saint's Fruit on the Tianyuan continent. At the same time, the Pung Emperor was the only one of the 3 holy emperors who had sacrificed himself in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. He was the only great holy emperor who had fought until the very end. Gentian exchanged some pleasantries with the Pung Emperor before looking at Kaiser and Lankiros. He smiled faintly. Looking at your expressions, you don't seem to welcome my arrival. Kaiser and Lankiros clenched their teeth as they stood there with sunken faces. Even though they were extremely furious about Gentian's arrival and did not welcome Gentian, they dared not say anything. It was even more impossible for them to yield to Gentian because they were supreme experts. They had their own pride. Newbies immediately sneered when he saw this. He took a step forward and said, 2 Class 9 experts, are you really not going to welcome us brothers here? According to the rules of the beast god continent, are you going to chase us out? With that, a tremendous presence radiated from Newbies. His strength as a Class 9 expert was on full display. The 3 emperors' expressions all changed. They finally shifted their gazes from Gentian to Newbies. They had been completely focused on Gentian earlier, so they had subconsciously overlooked Newbies' existence. Only now did they discover in surprise that Newbies was also a Class 9 magical beast. Kaiser and Lankiros looked at each other. They could see deep helplessness and grievance in each other's eyes. In the past, they had always been the ones to bully others. They had never been like this before. A great enemy had come to their lair, yet they dared not say anything. They were afraid that they would bring disaster upon themselves. Chapter 14:26. The beast god hall before us was left behind by the winged tiger from ancient times. It has a total of 99 floors, and only other winged tigers of ancient times can enter the 99th floor. It's said that the winged tiger's legacy is inside, but no one has ever set foot inside after countless years, so the 99th floor has always been sealed. The only way to enter is from the inside. The Holy Emperor of the Pung clan explained. Kaiser's face became even more sunken. His gaze toward the winged tiger now contained a sliver of extremely well-hidden killing intent. He obviously knew why Gentian had come to the Beast God Hall, but he had once caused the death of the young winged tiger's father, so he had become mortal enemies with the winged tiger. If the winged tiger obtained the legacy, he would not be able to survive. This was because he had a blood feud with the winged tiger. Thank you for telling me, Senior. Gentian clasped his hands at the Pung Emperor before making his way to the Beast God Hall with Newbies. Stop. As a human, you are not allowed to set foot in the Supreme Beast God Hall, or you'll be blaspheming the entire Beast God continent. You will be trampling on the dignity of our continent, Lankiros said with an ugly expression. If you want to stop me, feel free to come, Jian Wushuang replied coldly. He walked towards the Beast God Hall with firm steps. He had no intentions of stopping. Newbies followed beside Gentian. He was extremely excited. Kaiser and Lankiros stared at Gentian's back as they gritted their teeth. In the end, they could only watch as Gentian entered the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall. There was nothing they could do. They no longer possessed the strength to stop Gentian. The Holy Emperor of the Pung clan, Psangcheom, glanced at Kaiser and Lankiros deeply. He gently sighed inside before entering the 98th floor as well. King and the Tiger Emperor stood there with gloomy expressions. Their eyes flickered with uncertainty, but they didn't enter. Right now, even if the two of us work together, we still aren't a match for Jianshin. Although Jianshin won't take our lives, there's still the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. As long as Jianshin is here, we can't do anything to the winged tiger. Once the winged tiger obtains the beast god's legacy and steps into Class 9, the two of us probably won't be a match for him even if we work together, Lankiros transmitted. He was very heavy inside. After a moment of silence, Kaiser replied, "Although we had some grievances with Jianshin in the past, it wasn't to the point where it couldn't be resolved. At the same time, we did our best in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints, so Jianshin didn't kill us. However, the winged tiger is different. After all, we basically killed its father. Our grievances with the winged tiger can't be resolved. It's just a pity that we can't directly control the Beast God Hall, or dealing with Jianshin would be much easier. All we can do now is leave the Beast God continent. The world is only so big. It won't be difficult for an Origin Realm expert to find us, so where can we run to?" Lankiros asked. "If we hide, Jianshin won't be able to find us in a short amount of time. I believe that the next wave of attacks from the world of Forsaken Saints will arrive soon. Jianshin is very powerful, but he's definitely not the opponent of the sovereigns from the world of Forsaken Saints. It's unknown whether he and the winged tiger can survive the next battle. As long as they're dead, there's nothing for us to fear. However, we need to find a place to hide during this period of time. The best place right now is the most dangerous place on the Tianyuan continent, the Death Nest." Kaiser gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with humiliation. He had never thought that there would be a day when he would be forced to leave the Beast God continent and the territory under his rule. "There's no time to lose. Let's go right now." Kaiser and Lankiros concealed their presences and carefully left the place. They were afraid that they would alarm Jianshin. However, what they did not know was that Jianshin, who was still in the Beast God Hall, had suddenly turned his head and glanced in their direction as soon as they moved. He had already sensed their intentions. "Jianshin, the two Class 9 overlords have a blood feud with the tiger cub. Are we just going to let them leave like this?" Newbies asked Jianshin. Clearly, he had sensed Kaiser and Lankiros' departure as well. Xiao Bai is the winged tiger of ancient times, after all. He doesn't need us to interfere with the feud of his father's death. Once Xiao Bai truly matures, he'll need to personally take revenge and kill his enemy, Jianshin said softly. He was not afraid that Kaiser and Lankiros would vanish. The world was not particularly vast to Origin Realm experts. Since they've already left, it's equivalent to giving up on the Beast God continent. The 97th and 98th floors of the Beast God Hall have become ownerless. Jianshin, there's still some wealth that they haven't taken away. "It's all yours now," said Sangqiong. He sighed inside. In the past, Kaiser and Lankiros had led the experts of the Beast God continent to invade the Tianyuan continent and force Jianshin to flee. In the end, they ended up in the Sea Realm. Yet now, Jianshin had forced Kaiser and Lankiros to give up on a large portion of the Beast God continent and flee. What a reversal of fortune. "There's no hurry. Let's let the white tiger go to the 99th floor for now, and then we can slowly check what they've left behind," Jianshin said. He strolled through the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall at a steady pace. However, he sighed inside because the energy of the world was extremely dense on the 98th floor. It was almost 100 times denser than the energy of the outside world. It was much denser than the energy of the 10 protector clans. No wonder the Beast God continent has 3 holy emperors, while the humans only had one in the past, and that one only broke through after creating a different path of cultivation. Looks like all the mysteries lie here. If you cultivate in the Beast God Hall for a long period of time, your rate of improvement will be incomparable to those of the outside world, Jianshin thought. The holy emperor of the Peng clan led the way for Jianqin. He directly led Jianqin to the entrance to the 99th floor. Although the Peng emperor had always been cultivating on the 97th floor, every floor of the Beast God Hall was roughly the same, which was why the Peng emperor was extremely familiar with this place. Under the Peng emperor's lead, Jianqin passed through many corridors before finally arriving at the entrance to the highest floor. Chapter 1427. This teleportation formation was a very large diagram with a diameter of 50 meters. It was carved on the ground and looked very mysterious. Although it was in a static state, if one looked closely, it seemed to be constantly rotating. If one was too engrossed in it, they would even feel a sudden suction force coming from the teleportation formation, pulling their souls as if they were going to be sucked into the teleportation formation. Jianqin studied the teleportation formation for a while and gradually became stern. It was not like he had never seen teleportation formations before. He even possessed a teleportation formation diagram from the Divine Hall of the Underworld sect. However, none of the teleportation formations he had seen were as profound as the one in the Beast God Hall. Even Jianqin would feel dizzy if he became too engrossed in the teleportation formation. He was extremely surprised by this. After all, the strength of his soul was incomparable to the past, yet it did not even have the right to peek at the secrets of the teleportation formation. This could only mean that the teleportation formation was of too high a level. Looks like this is the teleportation formation to the 99th floor. I've only seen the existence of this teleportation formation in a few ancient records. This is the first time I've seen it with my own eyes, Sangqiong sighed emotionally as he studied the teleportation formation curiously. According to the records, this teleportation formation contains a supreme killing formation. It will kill any expert who tries to destroy it or activate it, no matter how powerful they are. Even if they have reached the apex of this world, they won't be able to withstand a single blow from the killing formation. Their souls will be wiped out in a single instance. Once the teleportation formation is activated, the killing formation will erupt as well. Only the winged tiger can survive in it. The holy emperor of the Peng clan continued. He stared at the teleportation formation with some surprise and doubt. Then what if an origin realm expert enters? Jianqin asked. The holy emperor of the Peng clan frowned slightly. After a moment of thought, he said, according to the records, the apex of this world can't withstand a single blow from the killing formation. I just wonder if the apex of this world is the holy emperor or the origin realm. If the origin realm is included, then it'll probably possess the terrifying power to destroy origin realm experts. Newbie smiled in a non-committal manner when he heard that. He said, who passed down this information in the records? They actually praised the killing formation to be so powerful that it can even kill origin realm experts. Obviously, the winged tiger, replied the holy emperor of the Peng clan. Newbies was stunned when he heard that. He immediately became stern. Only the bloodline of the winged tiger can activate the teleportation formation. Jianqin, you better let the winged tiger out. He'll have to rely on himself for what happens next. None of us can help him, said Sangqiong. Out of the 3 holy emperors of the magical beasts, he was the only holy emperor who supported Xiaobai. The white tiger had awakened from its cultivation several days ago. It had also received orders from Jianqin that he would take it to the Beast God Hall to obtain the legacy of the ancient divine beasts. As a result, it had remained in the artifact space, waiting for Jianqin's news. Jianqin immediately notified the artifact spirit to let Xiaobai out. Jianqin had allowed Xiaobai to remain in the artifact space the entire time because he wanted to prevent Kaiser from setting up any traps on the 99th floor of the Beast God Hall. With a flash of golden light, the white tiger appeared on the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall. It could freely control the size of its body, so it was only a meter-long cub. Its fur was snow white, and it shone with a hazy white light. Every single strand of its fur pulsed with a powerful energy, as if any single strand of its fur could become a weapon that could harm people at will. Especially on its back, there were two folded divine wings that were tightly pressed against its back. There were simple and unadorned markings on them. They looked ordinary, but they also seemed to hide the profound mysteries of the great Tao of heaven and earth. This time, Rum Guinness, who had been in seclusion for many years in the artifact space, had appeared as well. In the past few years, Rum Guinness' strength had undergone an overwhelming change. In the past, she was only a Class 7 magical beast, but now she had become a Class 8 expert and had reached the 7th heavenly layer. Rum Guinness' strength had increased to such a level in such a short amount of time because of the comprehension tea tree and the violet cloud peach. The holy emperor of the Peng clan, Songcheong, naturally recognized the mother of the winged tiger. He nodded at Rum Guinness in a friendly manner and no longer paid any attention to her. Instead, he focused his attention on the winged tiger. Us beasts can assume human form as long as we reach the 7th step. There are even some unique races that don't need to reach the 7th step to assume human form. I never thought that the winged tiger god would still maintain its beast form even though it's already at the 8th step. According to the records, the winged tiger god of the ancient times had always maintained his beast form in front of the world. Could it be that none of the ancient divine beasts were able to take human form? Tsang Cheong muttered to himself with a trace of doubt and confusion in his eyes. The white tiger glanced at the teleportation formation before looking at Jianqin and Rum Guinness. Its eyes were filled with reliance and affection. It did not step into the teleportation formation immediately. Jianqin rubbed the white tiger's furry head out of habit. His gaze became gentle, and he said gently, "Little White, this is your fortune. You can only rely on yourself for the future. We can't provide you with any assistance. Go and accept the legacy of your ancient, divine beast. You still have to avenge your father's death. You need to avenge yourself. Child, your father is watching over you from above. You can't disappoint him. You have to obtain the great legacy of the beast god," Rum Guinness said emotionally with tears in her eyes. The white tiger's gaze immediately became determined when it saw the tears in Rum Guinness' eyes. It produced a deep roar before turning around and entering the teleportation formation. The teleportation formation had been activated by a droplet of the white tiger's blood. It immediately lit up, shining with a dazzling white light that drowned out the white tiger's entire body. At the same time, the supreme killing formation hidden in the teleportation formation appeared as well, isolating the space where the teleportation formation was from the outside world. Immediately, an extremely terrifying killing light descended from the sky, enveloping the space where the teleportation formation was. Chapter 1428. At that moment, Jianqin could not help but think of the Spirit King. If he were to compare the Spirit King to the light, the result would astound Jianqin. The Spirit King would not be able to put up any resistance at all. In the end, he would be completely obliterated by the terrifying light. The war god, Ruijin, once said that the winged tiger has already surpassed the limits of life and can live as long as the world. That's the symbol of godhood. Is this the strength of godhood? Jianqin asked himself. The terrifying light had greatly shocked him. Now he finally believed that the ancient records were not exaggerating at all. Once the teleportation formation was activated by someone other than the winged tiger, they would be wiped out even if their strength had reached the apex. The apex did not refer to the peak of the Holy Emperor. Instead, it included the origin realm. The expressions of the Holy Emperor and newbies drastically changed as well. They could obviously sense the terror of the killing formation. Just a sliver of its presence was enough to make them shiver in fear. If they were to face it directly, they no longer dared to imagine the final result. Rum Guinness was in an even worse state. She staggered back several dozen steps as her face became extremely pale. She was filled with fear. The way of slaughter. The winged tiger has actually comprehended the way of slaughter to such a profound level. He's not from this world, so who is he? Does he come from? At the same time, the sword spirits murmured to themselves. They were stern. The terrifying light descended from the sky and swept through the teleportation formation as if it wanted to destroy everything there. However, when the light landed on the white tiger, it passed through its body. It did not harm the white tiger at all. In the end, the light vanished when it came into contact with the ground of the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall, leaving no traces behind. At the same time, the teleportation formation finished charging up and sent the white tiger away. With a few cracks, the huge teleportation formation on the ground shattered. After leaving the 98th floor of the Beast God Hall, the white tiger discovered that it had appeared in outer space. As far as the eye could see, there were countless stars shining with resplendent starlight. Huge meteors would shoot through the vast space from time to time at unbelievable speeds, either disappearing into the ends of space or colliding with the stars and being destroyed. Slaughter, the ruler of life, surpasses all living things, stepping on the fates of all living things. Right at this moment, a loud voice rang out from the void, reverberating continuously beside the little white tiger's ears like a great bell. If you want to comprehend the way of slaughter, you must comprehend the origin of life first. Yang from extreme, yin and yang. The way of slaughter is death, and the origin of life is life. If life and death are singular, yin and yang will clash. Only when life and death are balanced can a true way be formed. Suddenly, the white tiger's surroundings changed. A huge planet appeared before him. The planet was barren, and it was deathly silent. There was no presence of life at all. He seemed to have experienced an endless amount of time there, but it also seemed like it had happened in the blink of an eye. He had no idea how much time had passed. Under the countless cycles of yin and yang, a few strange pulses gradually appeared on the huge planet. These pulses all originated from the rocks on the planet or from some natural climate. In the end, they all formed strange life forms. Some of them were formed from rocks, some of them were condensed from rain, and some of them were born from the wind. From then on, the dead planet possessed its first life forms. Afterwards, after an unknown amount of time, green plants gradually appeared on the planet. As the sun and moon alternated, some of the plants became spirits, forming another strange life form. After an endless amount of time, these life forms formed from rocks, plants, wind, and rain began to evolve. After an endless amount of time, they formed many powerful races. The dead planet was now filled with life. Among these races, the white tiger suddenly discovered the magical beasts that he was extremely familiar with. For a moment, the life of the planet reached its peak. However, at this moment, a world-ending catastrophe descended. A terrifying rain of fire flew from the sky, riddling this planet full of vitality with thousands of holes. The entire planet suffered huge damage. The ground collapsed, mountains collapsed, tsunamis surged, and magma erupted, exterminating all life on the planet. In the blink of an eye, the planet was reduced to a dead planet once more. There was no sign of life at all. After that, the planet began to fall silent. However, after an endless amount of time, a new life form was born again. Gradually, the planet began to grow again, slowly returning to its former peak. Just as the planet began to flourish again, a huge meteor flew over one day and slammed into the planet viciously. It immediately shattered the planet. The terrifying impact wiped out all life on the planet. From then on, the great planet was divided into several smaller planets, all of which floated silently in the void of space. However, after an endless amount of time, a new life form gradually appeared on the smaller planets. However, in the end, they all walked towards destruction time and time again. Some came from natural disasters, while some came from the problems of the life forms themselves. It was like they were going through reincarnation after reincarnation, playing out various stories. The white tiger watched all of this quietly. His eyes were filled with confusion and confusion. However, time seemed to pass extremely quickly in the void of space. In the blink of an eye, an endless amount of time would pass. Scenes like this played out time and time again, alternating between life and death. After who knew how much time had passed, the white tiger's eyes were no longer as confused as before. Instead, they gradually brightened. They shone with light. Vaguely, he seemed to understand something. The end of life, even death. Death, even death, is the beginning of life. Once life reaches the peak and evolves to the limit, everything will move in the opposite direction. Similarly, once death reaches the limit, there will be hope for life. Life and death are like yin and yang. They exist at the same time and harmonize with each other. They cannot be separated. Little White Tiger clearly understood this principle. At this moment, it felt its primordial spirit growing rapidly and undergoing a qualitative transformation. Once you understand life and death, you have to comprehend the truth of life and death and obtain the origin of life and death. The voice rang out once again, causing the entire void of space to tremble. The white tiger felt the world spin. When he returned to his senses, he discovered that he was already on a planet brimming with life. He had turned into a herb that grew in the mountains. Before long, he was picked by a medicine farmer and turned into a bowl of medicine. He saved a person on the verge of death, ending his life and saving another person. Afterwards, the white tiger turned into a person, a bird, and various plants in the mountains. He experienced life and death time and time again, comprehending the truth of life and death and obtaining the origin of life and death. Every life and death was like a reincarnation. Every life and death was an accumulation. Gradually, the white tiger understood more and more. His understanding of life and death became deeper and deeper. Chapter 14:29. His soul rapidly rose once again, undergoing a major metamorphosis. It was ascending. 2 specks of light appeared in his soul. He had comprehended the truth of life and death and obtained the origin seeds of life and death. One of them represented death, while the other represented life. The illusion shattered, and the planet beneath him vanished. The cosmos shattered as well. When he saw his surroundings clearly, he discovered that he had reappeared in the beast god hull. This floor was very different from the 98th floor he was on. In the center of this floor, a white tiger statue with a pair of wings on its back stood there quietly. Its divine wings were completely spread open, as if they could cover the sky and cover the sun, and also as if they had the power to tear the heavens and earth apart. There was a 100-meter-tall platform at the end of the hall. There was only a throne on the platform. Aside from that, there was nothing else on the 99th floor of the beast god hull. The second CU Tiger Emperor in the world. You've finally come. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time already. At this moment, a vigorous voice rang out in the white tiger's ears. A white-clothed person hovered a meter off the ground beside the white tiger. He was enveloped by a layer of gentle white light, obscuring his face. The little white tiger let out a low growl as it sized up the person whose face it could not see clearly. However, it felt an extremely amiable aura from the other party. Correct? I am the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. However, the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, is a name given to me by others. Our true identities are actually the CU Tiger Emperors, also known as the White Tiger Emperor. The CU Tiger Emperors were born from the world. They were born from the world, so they were bestowed by the world. They were not born from everything in the world like the innate spirits. The CU Tiger Emperors are true emperors. They possess one of the most powerful bloodlines in the world, rarely appearing even once every 10 million years. They possess the potential bestowed by the world, and they can catch up to the ancestral dragon. They have the potential to become existences comparable to grand exalts. I am the first CU Tiger Emperor born in 8 million years. My hometown is not here, but somewhere extremely far away. I love my hometown very much, but in the end I was forced to leave this place that I missed so much back then when I came to this world I comprehended something and fused with the world. I resonated with the laws of the world and glimpsed the origin of the laws. I predicted that in 1,000,000 years, a second Siu Tiger Emperor would be born here, so I left behind my legacy to assist the future. The sacred feathered tiger emperor is worthy of being called the emperor of the white tigers. It was once rare to see one in tens of millions of years. Now, a second one has appeared in just a short 1,000,000 years. It has overturned history and symbolizes the arrival of an unprecedented and grand age. He was dressed in white and exuded a holy white light. It was impossible to see his face clearly as he slowly walked in front of the little white tiger. He gently stroked the little white tiger's head and continued, "This is an essence spirit clone that I left behind back then. It has existed since ancient times, but it can't hold on for much longer and is about to dissipate. The second sacred feathered tiger emperor in the world. Properly comprehend the way of massacre here. You can only leave this place when you have truly stepped into the way of massacre. We will meet again in the future." The little white tiger looked at the person whose face could not be seen clearly, and it let out a low growl with a determined look in its eyes. This world has already been sealed. It can stop anyone from reaching the origin realm, but it can't seal off spirits born of the world, nor can it seal off the powerful bloodline of the Siu Tiger Emperor. As a result, you won't encounter any obstructions when you reach the origin realm. Once you are powerful enough in the future, go to the higher world with your companion. You can learn about the information there from your friend, the second Siu Tiger Emperor in the world. Grow up well. Although we possess a powerful bloodline that can rival the ancestral dragon and rival grand exalts in the future, we were born in a flourishing age. There will definitely be many experts in the future. We need to work together and kill our way back home. I am about to disperse and step onto the throne to receive my legacy. With that last sentence, the white-robed person dispersed into a rain of light. In the blink of an eye, the 99th floor fell silent. The white tiger stared blankly at where the white-robed person had vanished from. Only after long while did his gaze finally land on the throne before him. He slowly made his way over. As soon as he leapt onto the throne, the entire beast god hall violently shook. At that moment, the terrifying energy within the beast god hall began to rampage. It gathered from all directions before surging toward the mysterious 99th floor. The white tiger's body violently shook. He immediately closed his eyes and lay on the throne, sinking into a deep state of cultivation. All the supreme energy that had gathered on the 99th floor was poured into the throne. The tyrannical, murderous energy began to become docile after being converted by the throne before being absorbed by the white tiger. As a result, the white tiger's strength began to increase at an unbelievable rate. At the same time, the white tiger's consciousness entered a different world. He began to comprehend the way of slaughter left behind by the previous winged tiger. The two specks of light that represented life and death flickered in his soul. They slowly strengthened as the white tiger comprehended the way of slaughter. The shaking of the beast god hall roused all the magical beasts cultivating there. Afterward, the energy within the beast god hall violently surged, forming a terrifying pressure that even Class 8 magical beasts struggled to endure. It even caused some of the Class 8 magical beasts that had yet to recover from their injuries in the battle against the world of forsaken saints to vomit blood. Their wounds became even more severe. What's happening? Why is the Beast God Hall giving off such a terrifying pressure? The supreme energy in the Divine Hall is unstable. Something's wrong. Something's happening to the Divine Hall. Oh no, the pressure is rapidly strengthening. If this continues, I'll be injured by the pressure sooner or later. I need to leave immediately. At this moment, the expressions of all the magical beasts that were still cultivating in the Beast God Hall changed drastically. They flew out of the Beast God Hall in shock and confusion. They all hovered outside as they stared at the colossal Divine Hall that reached into the clouds before them in surprise and doubt. Everyone, please remain calm. The great winged tiger of our magical beasts has returned. He has entered the mysterious 99th floor to receive his legacy. The abnormality of the beast god hall should be because of this, the white tiger said calmly. Chapter 1430. The Class 8 magical beasts all raised their heads when they heard that. Their gazes toward the holy emperor of the Peng clan were filled with respect. This was respect for a Class 9 expert. However, when they heard that the great winged tiger had already entered the 99th floor of the beast god hall and was accepting the legacy, all of them became overjoyed. The ancient divine beast, the winged tiger, was a god in the eyes of the magical beasts. It had left behind an undefeatable presence in the past, but this presence had diminished with the passage of time. As a result, very few magical beasts treated the winged tiger as a god anymore. There were even 2 emperors who wanted to possess the winged tiger. However, the world now faced the threat of the world of Forsaken Saints. All of them had personally witnessed the foreign world's strength. It was impossible to stop them without an origin realm expert. The war gods of the 100 races had returned. The humans had Genshin, and the sea realm had Poseidon. Out of the 4 races in the world, 3 of them had origin realm experts. Only the magical beasts did not. As a result, the magical beasts that had originally suppressed the 100 races and the humans had suddenly become the weakest race. As a result, the return of the winged tiger at such a crucial time naturally made all the magical beasts extremely excited. A portion of their excitement was not because of the winged tiger's identity as an ancient divine beast. Instead, it was because the winged tiger's existence had allowed the magical beasts to maintain their former status. Only a very small number of people still worshipped the winged tiger as a god. The holy emperor of the Peng clan, Sangqiong, spoke again. Now the emperor wishes to announce an important matter. 2 of the 3 kings of our beast god continent, the winged tiger and Kaiser, have fled out of fear for their crimes. They have left the beast god hall. From today onwards, the 2 of them are no longer members of our magical beasts. Now the emperor officially announces that Lankiros and Kaiser are wanted. Once you find any traces of them, report it immediately. Sangqiong's words immediately caused quite a commotion. The beast god continent was divided into 3 regions. Kaiser, Lankiros, and Sangqiong each ruled over a region, becoming the rulers of the beast god continent. They were the most powerful existences on the beast god continent. Now that Sangqiong had directly issued an arrest warrant for the other 2 rulers, it immediately stunned everyone. However, no one dared to voice out their doubts. At this time, the 2 great overlords, King and Tiger Emperor, were nowhere to be seen. This already explained some things. And now that the winged tiger had begun to accept the inheritance, all of them understood in their hearts that from now on, they would no longer be loyal to the original 3 supremes, but to the great beast god, the winged tiger. Therefore, even though some of the 8th stage powerhouses were subordinates of the Tiger Emperor and King, they all maintained their silence at this special moment. Sangqiong looked at Jianqin, and his dignified expression immediately vanished. He smiled at Jianqin, sovereign Jianqin, who knows how long it'll take for the winged tiger's inheritance to be completed. Why don't you stay in the beast god hall for now, so that I can play host to you? Jianqin thought about it and declined Sangqiong's invitation. He had no idea how long it would take for the white tiger's inheritance to be completed. It would be fine if it took a few days, but if it took several years or even longer, he could not afford to wait that long because he still had many matters to attend to. At the same time, the white tiger was on the 99th floor of the beast god hall, so no one could threaten his safety. Afterward, Jianqin returned to the beast god hall under Sangqiong's lead. He went around the floor where Kaiser and Tiger Emperor resided and found their treasury. He took away everything that caught his eye. Jianqin found a large number of high-class monster cores in the 2 Holy Emperor's treasury, as well as a few ruler armaments and king armaments that they had collected. Jianqin even found a complete Saint tier battle skill and 3 Emperor armaments in the 2-class 9 magical beasts treasury. The Saint tier battle skill and the 3 Emperor armaments all possessed the presence of time. Who knew how many tens of thousands of years they had been there? The 2 items were treasures to humans, but to magical beasts, they did not have much use other than as a collection. However, to Jianqin's disappointment, he failed to find anything that could interest him in the 2 Holy Emperor's treasury. Jianqin and newbies left the Beast God Hall together, but Rum Guinness remained behind. She insisted on waiting for her child to come out. Jianqin stood on the Ziying sword on the Beast God continent. He slowed down and flew alongside newbies. A cold light flickered through his eyes. He would stop and scan the surroundings with the senses of his soul after flying a certain distance, as if he was searching for something. Jianqin, what are you looking for? Newbies asked out of curiosity. Back in the Sea Realm, one of the people who killed the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan managed to escape. He's called Li Fengxing, and he's from the Beast God continent, Jianqin said. He had come to the Beast God continent this time for 2 reasons. The first was for the White Tiger to enter the Beast God Hall and accept the legacy of the Beast God. The second reason was obviously to find Li Fengxing, who had escaped from the Sea Realm. Jianqin had never forgotten about the person who had killed the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan. However, the Beast God continent was a place he could not set foot on in the past. Only now did he possess the strength to not fear the 3 Holy Emperors of the Beast God continent, so he could set foot on this foreign land. Jianqin's senses of his soul could cover a range of over 200,000 kilometers in a single moment, and this was not his limit. Even an ant over 100,000 kilometers away would not be able to escape his senses. He could even send his senses underground to search for things hidden underground. The Beast God continent was vast, but it was not difficult for Jianqin to find someone if he made up his mind. It would just take a little more time and effort. In the blink of an eye, Jianqin had already searched the Beast God continent for 3 days. During those 3 days, he had searched every inch of the Beast God continent. He had basically searched half of the continent already. Although he still had not found any traces of Li Fengxing, Jianqin was not in a hurry at all. In just a few more days, I'll be able to search every inch of the Beast God continent. As long as Li Fengxing is still on the Beast God continent, he won't be able to escape my search. If he's not there, I'll go to the Tianyuan continent and search the 100 races. If I still can't find him, I'll search the entire world once my soul reaches the origin realm, Jianqin thought. He definitely would not spare Li Fengxing like he did with Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor. Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor had worked hard in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints, even if they had not made any contributions. As a result, his enmity with the 2 of them was written off. However, this was only because he did not kill the 2 of them. Their enmity with Jianqin had already been set aside. At the same time, they were enemies of the White Tiger. Jianqin and newbies passed through the places their senses had searched and arrived in a new region. The powerful senses of their souls expanded as usual, enveloping a range of over 200,000 kilometers. However, a few seconds later, Jianqin's eyes suddenly snapped open, and a sharp light immediately flashed through them. He immediately shot off into the distance as a streak of light on the Ziying sword, while newbies followed closely behind Jianqin. In a primeval forest where the natural yuan qi was abundant, a simple and crude wooden hut was built alone on a large green rock. It made creaking sounds in the gentle breeze, like an old man in his 60s who couldn't withstand the wind and was about to fall apart. Inside the wooden house, it was extremely shabby. There were no tables or chairs like an ordinary house. The entire wooden house was empty, apart from a bare-chested, burly middle-aged man sitting cross-legged there. There was nothing else in the house. The middle-aged man's eyes were slightly closed. A tremendous amount of energy vaguely leaked out from his body. Clearly he was cultivating. Not long after, The extremely active energy in the middle-aged man's body began to slowly calm down. His slightly closed eyes also slowly opened. After the battle against the world of forsaken saints, the beast god continent suffered heavy losses. Many experts have died, and most of the beast god hall has been emptied out. It's said that cultivating in the beast god hall will allow you to achieve twice the results with half the effort. With my strength in the past, it would have been very difficult for me to occupy the beast god hall and become the master of a floor, but it's different now. The middle-aged man murmured. His eyes shone with eagerness. However, the middle-aged man seemed to think of something soon after. His face became extremely ugly in the blink of an eye. He clenched his fists tightly, and extreme fear could be vaguely seen in his eyes. He said with a deep voice, "Although I did not take part in the battle against the world of forsaken saints, I have heard quite a lot. A sovereign who has surpassed the Holy Emperor has appeared on the Tianyuan continent. I once fell out with the human sovereign in the sea realm. If he finds me, I'll be done for." It said that the human sovereign has close ties with the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. If he escorts the winged tiger to the beast god hall, I definitely won't be able to escape from him. If that's the case, I still can't go to the beast god hall, whatever. The temptation of cultivating in the beast god hall is indeed great, but it's not as important as my life. I won't go to the beast god hall. I'll just cultivate here peacefully. The human sovereign is busy with the matters of the world of forsaken saints, so he definitely won't be able to pay attention to me. Moreover, this place is far enough away from the beast god hall. Li Fengxing loosened his fists powerlessly. The yearning for the beast god hall in his eyes vanished as well. As soon as he thought about how he had fallen out with the human sovereign, he felt like he was facing the end of the world. He shivered in fear. Chapter 1431. When this great voice entered Li Fengxing's ears, it was like a thunderclap had exploded in his head. Not only did it deafen his ears, but even his soul could not help but tremble. The wooden hut had collapsed, burying Li Fengxing in ruins. However, Li Fengxing did not seem to sense anything at all. He continued to sit there with his legs crossed as a temporary daze filled his eyes. However, his dazed eyes began to shine again. Fear immediately filled his eyes. He had not heard the voice often, but he would never forget it. This was because he had thought about what the owner of the voice had said in the sea realm more than once. Now, the owner of the voice had become the sovereign of the human race. Li Fengxing's body trembled as his face paled. At this moment, his entire soul was filled with immense fear. Without any hesitation, he immediately rushed out of the ruins of the wooden hut and flew into the sky, wanting to escape this place at all costs. However, as soon as Li Fengxing took to the air, a streak of purple light suddenly appeared on the horizon. It approached him at an unbelievable speed. The streak of purple light was still on the horizon a moment ago, but it arrived before Li Fengxing in the next moment. Immediately, an indescribably powerful pressure flooded over. It weighed down on him like a mountain, causing his chest to tighten and making breathing difficult. The white-robed Jianqin stood with his hands behind his back. He stood on the Ziying sword and hovered before Li Fengxing. He stared at him coldly as heavy killing intent radiated from him at all. The moment he saw Jianqin, Li Fengxing immediately began to tremble violently. He was utterly terrified. He was filled with fear. Sovereign Jianqin, why? You're the greatest human expert, after all. Why do you have to make things difficult for a nobody like me with your status? Li Fengxing said with a trembling voice. At the same time, he felt resentful inside. He had originally thought that he would not have to worry about anything as long as he hid. With Jianqin's current status as the sovereign of the human race, he might have forgotten about a nobody like him long ago. However, he had never thought that Jianqin would not forget about a nobody like him even though he had become the sovereign of the human race. To his disbelief, the sovereign of the human race had personally come to the beast god continent to find him. The Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan died to your hands. I, Genshin, will never let go of anyone who took part in the attack on the Grand Elder, no matter who they are, even if they flee to the ends of the world. Li Fengxing, you should have realized this from the moment you killed the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan, Genshin coldly said. Sovereign Genshin, you can't blame me for that. I was only following orders. Li Fengxing said in a hurry. He felt like he was facing the god of death as he faced Genshin. He had completely given up on the thought of fleeing before Genshin because he knew that it would be pointless. It was impossible for him to escape the pursuit of a sovereign. However, Genshin had already made up his mind to kill him. Aside from Li Fengxing, all the other people who had killed the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan had been slain. With a flash of white light and surging sword chi, Li Fengxing's head had been cut off by Genshin's sword chi. A strand of pure sword chi had entered his head through the wound, wiping out his soul. A Class 8 magical beast that was equivalent to the Holy Emperor had been slain by Genshin so easily. Only at this moment did newbies arrive in the distance as a golden streak of light. He silently stared at the headless Li Fengxing as he fell from the sky. He seemed to think about how he and Genshin had been hunted down by Li Fengxing and the others in the Sea Realm. If it were not for the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan who had risked his life to save them back then, he and Genshin probably would have died. To the Sea Realm, Genshin emotionlessly said as he held Li Fengxing's head in his hand. Newbies nodded silently. He immediately ripped open a space gate to the Sea Realm and left with Genshin and newbies. As soon as Genshin and newbies approached the protective barrier of the Sea Realm, a gate opened and the two of them made their way to the Turtle Clan. Genshin and newbies did not alert anyone in the forbidden grounds of the Turtle Clan. They silently arrived with Li Fengxing's head. They wanted to use Li Fengxing's head as an offering to the Grand Elder's soul in heaven. Genshin stayed before the Grand Elder's grave for 3 days. 3 days later, he and newbies silently left. The huge Turtle Clan was now filled with experts. There were even several holy emperors present, but no one discovered the arrival of Genshin and newbies. Genshin and newbies hovered 1,000 meters above the peaceful, azure sea as they gazed into the distance. Genshin said, "Newbies, I want to visit the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. There's an extremely powerful and mysterious expert there. Even I can't control my own life before her, so there's no need for you to come with me this time." Newbies was surprised. He became stern and said with a heavy voice, "There are some rough records of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall in my inherited memories. It's said that it's a mysterious organization that has existed for countless years. Even the 10 protector clans are unwilling to offend them. I never thought that there would actually be an Origin Realm expert hidden there." Newbies looked at Genshin and said, "Genshin, I probably won't be able to help you this time. I'll wait for you on the Tianyuan continent." Genshin and newbies separated. One of them headed to the Tianyuan continent while the other entered the snowy tundra of the Arctic alone. When Genshin set foot on the frigid tundra again, he could not help but sigh emotionally. This was the second time he had set foot on the tundra. The first time he needed the assistance of Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish, but this time he was alone. However, even though he was alone, the threat of the tundra had decreased drastically to Genshin. It could even be said that there was nothing that could threaten him aside from the layer of mist that shrouded the Ice Goddess Hall. Ruijin, Blackfish, and Honglian were trapped because of me back then and have been sealed as ice sculptures in front of the Ice Goddess Hall. I have to save them today, no matter what, so that the 3 of them can become Saint Emperors. And second sister, I've already far exceeded the 1-year promise, but I've been tied up with various matters, so I can't make it. I wonder if you're angry." Genshin did not fly on his sword. Instead, he walked step by step into the depths of the tundra. Although he was walking, he moved extremely quickly. With every step, he would leave behind a faint afterimage. His original body would appear several kilometers away, as if he had teleported. Along the way, Jianqin encountered waves of coldness more than once. The waves of coldness were extremely cold, enough to freeze a holy emperor into an ice sculpture in a single moment. However, Jianqin only needed to extend a finger and shoot out a strand of sword qi to disperse the waves of coldness. Very soon, Jianqian saw a few ice sculptures of holy emperors and Class 9 magical beasts that had been left behind from an unknown era. He could clearly see a few piles of ice shards near the ice sculptures. The piles of ice shards had been left behind when Jianqin had tried to save the frozen holy emperors. This time, Jianqin only glanced at the ice sculptures indifferently. He did not stop at all and continued onwards. With a few flashes, he vanished. A faint layer of white light flickered around him, radiating with surging sword qi. This was the protective layer of light. As soon as the waves of coldness came in contact with the layer of light, they were shattered. The deeper he went, the colder it became. Jianqin needed to use some defensive measures now. Chapter 1432. Protector Shui sat on an ice bed like an ice sculpture within the snow-white ice goddess hall. Suddenly, she slowly opened her eyes. After a moment of hesitation, she gently waved her hand, and the space outside the ice goddess hall immediately began to distort. The ice goddess hall within the distorted space rapidly blurred, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The icy plains were the same as before, except the ice goddess hall that had stood there for countless years had vanished. This king has already hidden the ice goddess hall in another space, isolating it from the outside world. I hope Jianqin's arrival won't alarm Her Majesty. Protector Shui murmured to herself. Protector Shui murmured in the ice goddess hall. A sliver of helplessness vaguely appeared in her cold and emotionless eyes. Although this king cannot make things difficult for Jianqin because of Amo Tianyin, I cannot change Her Majesty's decision to give the ice soul to Jianqin, but I can stop Jianqin from seeing Her Majesty. At the same time, Changyang Mingyue suddenly roused from her cultivation in a secret room of the ice goddess hall. A sliver of doubt appeared in her eyes as she murmured, "That's strange. Why do I suddenly feel uneasy?" Changyang Mingyue gently frowned and thought. She was no longer in the mood to continue cultivating, so she stood up and walked out of the room. She directly arrived before Protector Shui and said, "Protector Shui, it's already been so many years, so why hasn't my brother come yet? Could it be that my fourth brother is in trouble?" Protector Shui slowly opened her eyes and politely replied, "Your Majesty, your brother is fine. He's currently busy fending off the world of Forsaken Saints, which is why he hasn't come." Protector Shui was worried that Changyang Mingyue would think about going to the Tianyuan continent to help Jianqin again after reaching there. So she added, "Your brother already possesses the strength to fight Origin realm experts. The invasion of the world of Forsaken Saints is no threat to him." In order to make Changyang Mingyue believe her even more, Protector Shui waved her hand and condensed an ice mirror before her. The mirror reflected the scene of Jianqin slaughtering the holy emperor from the world of Forsaken Saints with the Ziying sword. Changyang Mingyue could not help but smile happily when she saw how her brother slaughtered his way through the holy emperor like a hot knife through butter. She murmured, "I never thought that my brother would be so powerful already." "Your Majesty, your profound ice body will reach completion in a year. At that time, you'll be able to leave the ice goddess hall and go wherever you want," said Protector Shui. Eagerness filled Changyang Mingyue's eyes. She murmured, "There's only a year left. I'll be able to go to the Tianyuan continent in a year to find my brother. Father, Mother, it's been so long since I've been by your side. I wonder if you've been well. I will definitely cultivate diligently in the next year so that my profound ice body reaches completion as soon as possible. I'll go cultivate right now." Protector Shui watched Changyang Mingyue leave as the light in her eyes flickered with uncertainty. She thought, When Her Majesty's profound ice body reaches completion in a year, I'll implant all 3 ice souls into her body. That way, it'll be impossible for Her Majesty to give them away. Jianchen, I hope you won't disturb Her Majesty during this year. Sigh. It's a pity that I promised Mo Tianyan that I wouldn't make things difficult for Jianchen. Jianchen did not try to force his way through the mist. He had personally witnessed how terrifying the mist was in the past. Even though his strength had increased and he had forged the azulate swords, he was still not confident that he could pass through it. After waiting for a while, Jianchen immediately frowned when he saw that the mist did not change at all. He thought, when I came here last time to see my sister, she said that the entire icy plains were Protector Shui's territory. She said that Protector Shui would know of my arrival as soon as I set foot on the icy plains and would send me over. However, not only have I already set foot on the icy plains, but I'm also standing outside the mist that's only a wall away from the Ice Goddess Hall. It's impossible for Protector Shui to not sense me. Jianchen's gaze gradually turned cold as he stared at the mist that blocked his path. He thought, this can only mean that Protector Shui doesn't want me to go in. She doesn't want me to see my sister. Humph. I, Jianchen, am already standing here today. How can I leave so easily? Suddenly, Jianchen's presence changed. He radiated with surging sword intent. At that moment, he seemed to have gone from an ordinary person to a sword that stood in the world. The terrifying sword intent seemed to shatter space, causing all the cold qi in the surroundings to disperse. Only the mist before him remained unaffected. Jianchen was enveloped by a bright, white light, such that his body was no longer visible. When the white light came in contact with the tough layer of ice below his feet, the ice actually produced a clear cracking sound as fine cracks appeared. 2 dazzling streaks of light, one violet and one azure, shot into the air from the white light. They turned into the figures of swords that were several thousand meters long. Jianchen's eyes exploded with light. He formed a seal with his hands, and the azulate swords immediately shot out from his back with lightning speed. The 2 swords began to spin rapidly as they shot into the mist with dazzling light. Jianchen did not hold back at all with this strike. He had used his full strength, erupting with a might that was no weaker than an Origin realm expert. Wherever the 2 swords passed by, space would violently tremble, showing signs of shattering. Invisible sword qi permeated the surroundings, causing thick cracks to appear in the tough ice on the ground. The icy plains were Protector Shui's domain, so the space there was countless times tougher than the outside world. Jianchen's strike was enough to destroy the world, enough to cleave the Tianyuan continent in half, yet it failed to even cut through the space in the icy plains. The azulate swords shot into the profound ice mist as streaks of light. The calm mist immediately began to violently ripple. The coldness of the mist came in contact with the sword qi from the azulate swords, immediately producing a series of hissing sounds. The azulate swords pierced several dozen meters into the mist in a single moment, leaving behind an empty space. However, the deeper they went, the more terrifying the mist became. When the swords reached 300 meters in, their azure and violet light was immediately suppressed, causing them to dim. Chapter 1433. After venturing another 15 meters in, the terrifying coldness from the mist immediately multiplied. Even the low-quality immortal artifacts were unable to endure it. The ice on the 2 swords rapidly thickened, turning them into 2 icicles in a single moment. The light from the 2 swords was completely suppressed, to the point where even the swords could not be seen. This was no ordinary ice. It was terrifyingly tough. Even the azulate swords were suppressed, unable to gain the upper hand. Jianchen was stern as he stood outside the mist. He could sense that his connection with the swords was rapidly weakening. Without any hesitation, he immediately formed a hand seal and summoned the swords back. When the azulate swords returned from the depths of the mist, the ice on the 2 swords had already reached a thickness of half a meter. They had lost the speed that the swords should have possessed, slowly flying out of the mist. After they left the mist, the tunnel opened by the two swords slowly closed up, being filled by the mist in the surroundings. Jian Qin emotionlessly stared at the two half-meter-thick popsicles. Powerful sword chi began to condense in the surroundings, condensing in his right hand in a single moment. It shone with dazzling white light before viciously swatting at the two azulite swords that had become popsicles. The swat only created a tiny crack in the ice. When Jianqin's hand came in contact with the ice, a terrifying coldness invaded his hand and rapidly spread to his arm. Wherever the coldness passed, a layer of white frost would immediately appear on Jianqin's arm. Not only was his entire arm frozen, but even his blood had stopped flowing. A gleam of light flashed through Jianqin's eyes. The chaotic Naiden in his dantian immediately spat out a large amount of chaotic force into his right arm. Only then did he stop the coldness from spreading further. Afterward, the chaotic force flowed through his right arm, nullifying the terrifying coldness and gradually allowing his arm to recover. I never thought the coldness would be so terrifying. This was only a stream of coldness from the azulite swords. If he had ventured deep into the mist, he would have been directly attacked by the mist. He probably would not have been able to last for more than a few seconds before being turned into an ice statue. Jianqin did not try to break through the layer of ice again as he stared at the two swords that had turned into pillars of ice. After a dozen breaths of time, a caw-caw sound came from the two ice pillars. Dense cracks suddenly appeared on the two ice pillars. In the end, a layer of spider web covered the entire ice pillars. Indistinctly, purple and green light burst out from the cracks. Bang! Finally, with an explosion, the icicle exploded, revealing the two swords that glowed with violet and azure light. Without the support of the cold chi in the mist, the icicle was unable to trap the azulite swords. Protector Shui's intentions are very clear. How am I supposed to pass through the mist if I can't get through? Jianqin frowned. He knew that he was unable to get through the mist with his current strength. Probably even reciprocity experts would not be able to pass through the mist. Changyang Mingyue returned to the room where she cultivated in seclusion in the ice goddess hall. However, she was unable to settle down to cultivate no matter what. She sat on a bone-chilling piece of 10,000-year-old profound ice as she supported her chin with one hand. Doubt filled her eyes as she murmured, "Strange. Why do I suddenly feel uneasy? I can't settle down no matter what." After a while of thought with furrowed brows, Changyang Mingyue gently murmured to herself, "Something must have happened, and it's related to me. I just happened to learn the profound ice mirror technique from Protector Shui a few days ago, so I can see anything from anywhere, although I haven't cultivated the technique to a very high level due to my limited strength. So I can't see everything on the Tianyuan continent like Protector Shui. It's still possible as long as the range doesn't exceed 10,000 kilometers." Changyang Mingyue acted as soon as she thought of it. She immediately used a secret technique and condensed a mirror composed of profound ice out of thin air like Protector Shui. It hovered in the air. The surface of the mirror was snow-white, and a few blurry scenes could be seen flickering through it. This was the first time Changyang Mingyue had used the profound ice mirror technique. In the beginning, her control was not stable, so after a few seconds, the scene in the mirror finally cleared up. What appeared in the mirror was a snow-white world of ice. It was the Arctic tundra. She could clearly see a corner of the Arctic tundra. Although it was only a corner, it was close to 10,000 kilometers. Although the ice goddess hall had been hidden by Protector Shui's technique, it still vanished from the tundra, as if it had entered another space. However, it was unable to stop the profound ice mirror technique. The profound ice mirror technique was extremely wondrous. Through the mirror condensed from profound ice, not only could she clearly see a range of 10,000 kilometers, but she could also clearly sense all the presences within that range. Changyang Mingyue sensed an extremely familiar presence almost as soon as the profound ice mirror technique was formed. She immediately focused on it, and with a single glance, she immediately became stunned before joy filled her face. She could not help but cry out, "Brother, brother, I see brother, protector, Shui." In the next moment, Changyang Mingyue discovered that Jianqin had been blocked outside the layer of mist. Anger immediately appeared on her snow-white face, and with a flash she vanished. She furiously charged toward Protector Shui. At the same time, Protector Shui gently sighed as she sat on the bed of ice. At the same time, the terrifying mist before Jianqin began to surge violently. Under Jianqin's interested gaze, the mist began to rapidly disperse to the sides. In the blink of an eye, a 3-meter-wide tunnel silently formed. "Come in." Jianqin heard Protector Shui's cold voice. After a moment of thought, he strode in with the azulite swords on his back. When Jianqin passed through the mist, the ice goddess hall that Protector Shui had hidden away reappeared in its original position. The exquisite divine hall seemed to have fused with the world as it radiated with an ancient and desolate pressure. Jianqin glanced over, and his eyes immediately narrowed. This was because he did not discover where Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu had been frozen. He looked around and actually failed to find any traces of Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu. Could it be that Senior Ruijin and the others have been moved elsewhere by Protector Shui? Jianqin thought. He had come this time to visit his sister as well as save Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu. Chapter 1434. Sister. Jianqin was overjoyed when he saw Changyang Mingyue. He temporarily set aside the matter of Ruijin, Heiyu, and immediately made his way over. "Brother, you've finally come. I've already waited for you for many years. The 1-year agreement from back then has already passed." Changyang Mingyue stood at the entrance of the ice goddess hall and smiled at Jianqin. Although she said that, she did not blame Jianqin at all. Jianqin apologized with a smile. During that time, he had been busy with Poseidon's revival. He had first entered the Sea of Despair with Yadrium to search for Poseidon's supreme divine hall. Just that had taken him a very long time. By the time he and Yadrium had returned with Poseidon's divine hall, his 1-year agreement with Changyang Mingyue had already passed. Afterwards, he had to protect Poseidon's revival and stop the hall masters of the other 2 divine halls. Afterwards, when he returned to the Tianyuan continent, the world of Forsaken Saints just happened to invade. As a result, he was tied up with various matters during that period of time. He had no choice but to extend his 1-year agreement with his sister until today. Jianqin gave a simple explanation to Changyang Mingyue. Changyang Mingyue immediately smiled. "Brother, you don't need to explain it to me. It's not like I'm going to blame you." Changyang Mingyue gently sighed when she reached there. "It's just a pity that I haven't been able to leave the Ice Goddess Hall in all these years, making you suffer so much outside. Otherwise, I would have helped you no matter what and taught all your enemies a lesson." Jianqin smiled from the bottom of his heart when he heard that. He said, "Sister, I already possess that strength now. My past enemies, even the Holy Emperor, are no longer my opponent now. Yeah, my brother has become so powerful. You've massacred the Holy Emperor of the world of Forsaken Saints all by yourself. No one is your opponent. There are at least 200 Holy Emperors in your hands. I've learned about this from you. Sigh. I originally thought I was very powerful, but I've only discovered now that I'm still not as powerful as my brother." Changyang Mingyue smiled. She did not become discouraged at all. Instead, she felt happy for Jianqin. She felt proud that her brother had become so powerful. "Brother, hurry up and tell me what interesting experiences you've gone through in the past few years. I'm extremely curious as to how your strength has increased so quickly." Changyang Mingyue became interested. Jianqin smiled and gave a rough description of what he had gone through in the past few years. However, he only mentioned a lot of things in a single sentence and did not go into detail, including the matters in the Xianhuang microcosm. It was not that he did not trust Changyang Mingyue, but he was worried about the unfathomable protector Shui. Jianqin still had no idea just how powerful protector Shui was. Was she at the origin realm or godhood? He believed that he would not be able to hide from protector Shui even if he sent a message to her through communication techniques. Sister, Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish, who came with me a few years ago, have been trapped here by protector Shui. I owe Ruijin and the other 2 seniors a great deal of kindness. It can even be said that without the 3 of them, I would not be alive right now. Please persuade protector Shui to release Ruijin and the other 2 seniors, said Jianqin. He knew that he could only rely on his sister if he wanted to save Ruijin and the other 2 seniors with his current strength. What? Something like that has actually happened? Protector Shui actually dares to attack your benefactors? She's going more and more overboard. Let's go. Brother, I'll take you to see Protector Shui right now. Changyang Mingyue became furious. Changyang Mingyue was infuriated. She cared about her brother very much. In her opinion, anyone who saved her brother would be her benefactor as well. Changyang Mingyue became furious once again when she saw how Protector Shui treated the 3 of them. Changyang Mingyue immediately took Jianqin into the Ice Goddess Hall. As soon as he set foot in, a bone-chilling coldness appeared, causing Jianqin to involuntarily shiver. He immediately circulated his energy to resist. This was the first time Jianqin had set foot in the Ice Goddess Hall, which was extremely mysterious to the outside world. He could not help but carefully study it. He discovered that the interior of the hall was snow-white, completely composed of ice crystals. It seemed like a world of ice. Aside from that, there was nothing special about the mysterious Ice Goddess Hall. However, Jianqin understood that there was an undetectable terror hidden beneath the ordinary exterior of the Ice Goddess Hall. He knew that it was not because the Ice Goddess Hall was too ordinary, but because he was not powerful enough. He could not see through it at all. Along the way, Jianqin discovered that there were still some cultivators in the Ice Goddess Hall. They ranged from Saint Ruler to Holy Emperor. There were even a few Heaven Saint Masters who acted as servants. Along the way, all of them bowed politely when they saw Changyang Mingyue. They were extremely respectful. These people are actually all from the Tianyuan continent. Jianqin casually glanced over and discovered that they all came from the Tianyuan continent. Very soon, Jianqin met Protector Shui under Changyang Mingyue's lead. Protector Shui sat on the bed of ice in her silver-white armor. Only when she saw Changyang Mingyue did she stand up and bow. Before Changyang Mingyue could ask anything, she said to Jianqin, "The 3 of them were saved soon after you left. They're no longer on the icy plains." Jianqin was stunned. He found it hard to believe. Just who could save Ruijin and the others with Protector Shui's strength? Senior, who saved Ruijin and the others? Jianqin clasped his hands and asked, "Emo Tianyin." Protector Shui coldly replied, "What? Senior Emo Tianyin? Is Senior Emo Tianyin still on the Tianyuan continent?" Jianqin was greatly shocked as his mind churned. This matter was just far too shocking. That's only a clone of Emo Tianyin. It should have just come down to the lower world. I can't sense the aura of that clone right now. It should have vanished into thin air. After all, it's not so easy to come to this world. Protector Shui said. Jianqin looked at Protector Shui in some surprise. He felt that Protector Shui was rather different today. According to his understanding of Protector Shui, the prideful Protector Shui would never speak too much to others. Yet she had actually patiently explained things to him today. This was rather abnormal. "Protector Shui, are you treating me with any respect? Since Senior Ruijin and the other 2 are my brother's benefactors, they are my benefactors as well. You've actually trapped my benefactors here. You're really going overboard. Changyang Mingyue said with a deep voice. Changyang Mingyue stared at Protector Shui coldly. Protector Shui was powerful, but she was not afraid. Please forgive me, Your Highness. I trapped them because they possessed saint artifacts that did not belong to this world. Protector Shui politely replied. Sister, since Senior Ruijin and the others have already escaped, let's just forget about this matter. Jianqin hurriedly tried to persuade her when he saw that she was still angry. Protector Shui was a sovereign after all, so she had her own dignity. He did not wish for his sister to push her too far and cause some unexpected things to happen. Changyang Mingyue coldly snorted. Since my brother has said that, I'll let this matter slide. However, Protector Shui, I do not wish to see the same thing happen again. I understand, Your Highness. Protector Shui remained very polite. She did not become displeased at all when Changyang Mingyue, who had not even reached the origin realm, reprimanded a mighty divine king like this. It was as if this was how it should be. This was because Changyang Mingyue was the reincarnation of the snow goddess. Just like the ice goddess, she was her master. Changyang Mingyue and Jianqin left the place. The two of them casually strolled through the large ice goddess hall as they chatted about their daily lives. There's still a year before my profound ice body matures. At that time, I'll be able to leave. Don't worry, brother. I'll fight alongside you the next time the world of Forsaken Saints invades. Don't underestimate me. I may not be as powerful as you right now, only at the level of a holy emperor. But once my profound ice body matures, I'll immediately reach the origin realm. Coupled with the 10,000-year-old ice soul, I'll only become even more powerful. Perhaps you won't be able to defeat me, brother, Changyang Mingyue giggled. With a flip of her hand, a fist-sized ice crystal immediately appeared. Brother, this is the 10,000-year-old ice soul. I have 3 of them. Protector Shui said that each of them took 1,000,000 years to condense, so they're extremely precious. I'll give this to you. Just treat it as a gift from me. Changyang Mingyue passed the ice soul to Jianqin. Jianqin's eyes narrowed. He stared at the ice soul for a while and gradually became surprised. This was because he could feel that the energy within the ice soul was even more terrifying than a 5th-grade violet cloud peach. It was even several times or several dozen times more powerful than a 5th-grade violet cloud peach. At the same time, the energy within the ice soul was very gentle, just like a violet cloud peach. It could be easily absorbed. Sister, this is for you to increase your strength. I can't accept it. Jianqin immediately declined. He knew that the ice soul was definitely even more precious than a 5th-grade violet cloud peach. But the more that was the case, the more he could not accept it. These 3 10,000-year-old ice souls were the most precious items on Second Sister's body. She used them to increase her own strength. Every time she lost one, it meant that her future strength would be weakened by a bit. On the other hand, he had quite a few similar heavenly resources on him. Although they were nowhere near as precious as the ice souls, he had a lot of them. Changyang Mingyue frowned, and her pretty face immediately sank. She showed a dissatisfied expression and said in the tone of an elder scolding a junior, "Fourth brother, this is a gift from Second Sister. You have to accept it, even if you don't want to. Otherwise, it means that you look down on me. Sister, this." Jianqin was troubled. He hoped that she could use all 3 ice souls on her so that she could become even more powerful. Chapter 1435. In the end, Jianqin was unable to refuse. He could only accept the extremely precious ice soul. Although the extreme coldness within the ice soul had been removed, it did not change its nature. As a result, Jianqin still felt icy cold when he held the ice soul in his hand. However, he did not feel cold at all. Instead, he felt warm inside. He knew how important the ice soul was to Changyang Mingyue. If he used it on Changyang Mingyue, her strength would definitely increase much more than his. After all, The amount of energy required for each layer of the chaotic body that he cultivated was incalculable. However, Changyang Mingyue did not think about him at all. She was willing to reduce her strength to help him, which touched Jianqin deeply. "Brother, let's go. I'll find a secret room for you, and then I'll personally watch over you. You'll definitely absorb all the ice soul." Changyang Mingyue pulled Jianqin toward the secret room for seclusion. Jianqin did not resist. He knew just how determined his sister was right now. It would be useless no matter how he resisted. The only thing he could do was to deeply engrave this kindness in his heart. Jianqin entered a cold, icy cavern under Changyang Mingyue's personal lead. Cold mist permeated the cavern, and energy was abundant. A pure white rock of ice the size of a cushion was placed in the center. It radiated with coldness. "Brother," Protector Shui said that this piece of profound ice is extraordinary. It'll be beneficial to cultivators if you cultivate on it. You can emerge after you've completely absorbed the ice soul. Changyang Mingyue pointed at the cushion. Afterward, she closed the door to the room with a wave of her hand, leaving Jianqin alone inside. She sat outside and personally watched over Jianqin. "Protector Shui, you can't change my mind once I've decided on something. I know you're thinking for me and want me to become even stronger. But my brother has been through a lot of hardship in the past few years. Although he's no weaker than me now, I know that he traded his life for his strength today. In the past, when my brother was suffering outside and being hunted down, it was my incompetence as his sister that prevented me from helping him. But now that I have the ability, I have to help my brother no matter what. This is my responsibility as his sister." Changyang Mingyue murmured inside as she closed her eyes and sat before the door to the secret room. "With me here, Protector Shui, you won't be able to take the ice soul back from my brother. Even if I have to extend the time it takes for my profound ice body to mature, I have to guard him until he emerges." Jianqin sat on the profound ice rock with the ice soul in his hand. He stared at the ice soul in his hand with mixed feelings. For a moment, he was unable to calm down. At this moment, a cool sensation radiated from the profound ice rock to his left and entered Jianqin's body. The cool sensation was clearly not as simple as just cold qi. With its appearance, it actually gradually calmed down Jianqin's mixed feelings, allowing him to quickly get rid of his distracting thoughts. "Sister," Jianqin murmured inside before calming himself down. He began to focus on cultivation, absorbing the energy within the ice soul as much as he could. Although the vast energy within the ice soul was condensed from extremely cold qi, every single ice soul took 1,000,000 years to form. After such a long period of accumulation, the energy within the ice soul had already undergone a qualitative change. Not only was the coldness gone, but the energy was also extremely pure, vast, and powerful. When Jianqin absorbed the first strand of energy from the ice soul, the tiny strand immediately began to swell like a balloon. In the end, the strand of energy reached 100%, filling up Jianqin's entire dantian. In the end, his dantian was unable to contain all the energy, causing it to disperse. It filled Jianqin's entire body, causing him to clearly swell up. Jianqin rejoiced inside. He had already estimated the value of the ice soul before, but only now did he discover in surprise that it was even more powerful than he had estimated. "I wonder if I can reach the 5th layer of the chaotic body with this ice soul?" Jianqin was filled with anticipation. He immediately began to refine the energy within the ice soul as hard as he could. As the energy from the ice soul was constantly absorbed by Jianqin, the chaotic Naiden in his dantian began to swell bit by bit. The Naiden contained more and more chaotic force, allowing Jianqin to rapidly approach the 5th layer of the chaotic body. If it were not for the ice soul, it would have taken Jianqin quite a lot of time to reach the 5th layer of the chaotic body. After all, the energy required to go from the 4th layer to the 5th layer was just too tremendous. It was far more than what he needed to reach the 4th layer from the 3rd layer. Although he had obtained a large number of heavenly resources from the Xianhuang microcosm, His body would develop a resistance to the heavenly resources if he consumed too many of them in a short amount of time. As a result, Jianqin was unable to reach the 5th layer of the chaotic body in a short amount of time. After all, he did not have an innate advantage like the white tiger, who could consume heavenly resources without a limit. Without a doubt, the appearance of the ice soul was a timely help to Jianqin. It greatly shortened the time he needed to reach the 5th layer. Jianqin absorbed the ice soul extremely quickly. In just 2 months, the fist-sized ice soul had vanished from Jianqin's hand. It had been completely refined into chaotic force by Jianqin. However, to Jianqin's regret, his chaotic force still did not reach the 5th layer after absorbing the ice soul. It was only a sliver away from the 5th layer. The chaotic Niden in his dantian had gone from the size of a pigeon's egg to the size of an adult's fist. It had reached the peak of the 4th layer limit. If it could go any further, it would immediately reach the 5th layer. Jianqin silently stared at the large chaotic Niden in his dantian. After a moment of silence, he gritted his teeth and flipped his hand. An energy crystal from a Xianhuang beast immediately appeared. As soon as the energy crystal appeared, an extremely terrifying energy pulsed, permeating the entire room. At the same time, Protector Shui seemed to sense something as she sat on a bed of ice in another part of the hall. She slowly opened her eyes and glanced at where Jianqin was cultivating. Her gaze was deep, as if she could see through the walls of ice and directly see Jianqin. But very soon, Protector Shui looked away like nothing had happened. She sat on the bed of ice and slowly closed her eyes again. Chapter 1436. I hope this energy crystal can assist me in reaching the 5th layer of the chaotic body, Jianqin murmured to himself as he stared at the energy crystal in his hand. The energy crystal was one of the 2 Class 10 Xianhuang beasts that Jianqin had obtained in the Xianhuang microcosm. Back then, I was not powerful enough, so I lacked an understanding of the origin realm. As a result, I struggled to distinguish between Class 9 and Class 9 energy crystals. Looking at it now, this Xianhuang beast's energy crystal isn't Class 10 at all. It's at Class 11 at the very least, or even Class 12. At the same time, this energy crystal is the weaker one out of the 2 I obtained back then. As for the other one, it's probably Class 13. Jianqin gently rubbed the energy crystal in his hand as his eyes shone brighter and brighter. They were filled with eagerness. If it were not for the ice soul, Jianqin would never have chosen to absorb the energy crystals from the 2 Xianhuang beasts. He was not confident that he could break through with just the 2 of them. Although the 2 energy crystals were of extremely high quality, they were still existences equivalent to monster cores after all. They were not as beneficial to cultivators as the ice soul or the high-quality violet cloud peach. Even if Jianqin absorbed all of them, he was not confident that he could break through. However, his chaotic Niden had reached the peak of the 4th layer after absorbing the ice soul. Without a doubt, this was the best opportunity for him to break through. Jianqin sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. Afterward, he immediately focused and began to refine the energy crystal in his hand. He planned on breaking through to the 5th layer in a single stroke. The 5th layer of the chaotic body was extremely meaningful to Jianqin. Not only would it greatly increase his strength, but it would also give him the right to refine the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. 7 days later, Jianqin's chaotic Niden finally shattered with a great boom under his eagerness. It turned into a terrifying ball of chaotic force that filled his entire body. Jianqin's body suddenly swelled at that moment, becoming a small giant. He seemed like a balloon that had been blown up. Every time he broke through with the chaotic body, he would experience the shattering of his core. Each shattering of his core was extremely painful. Jianqin's facial muscles twitched, his forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat, and his face was pale. Even though he had experienced this kind of shattering of his core several times before, the intense pain that felt like his entire body was about to be torn apart was still unbearable. However, after enduring the excruciating pain, in exchange for a huge increase in strength. This was something that Jianqin was happy to accept. Boundless chaotic force surged within Jianqin's body and began to slowly compress. Basically, Jianqin's chaotic force shrank with every passing second. As it was being compressed, Jianqin's chaotic force slowly began to transform from the fourth layer to the fifth layer. At the same time, Jianqin's body was tempered by the strengthened chaotic force. His body strengthened at a visible rate, becoming even more powerful. This process lasted for several days. Jianqin finally reached the fifth layer of the chaotic body perfectly. Both his body and the chaotic force within him had experienced a qualitative leap. The chaotic Naiden in his dantian had shrunk to the size of a bean once again. Jianqin slowly opened his eyes. He could not help but smile as he sensed the chaotic force within his chaotic Naiden that was much more powerful than before. He was filled with joy. The energy crystal in his hand had not been completely absorbed. He had only used up a third of its energy. My chaotic Naiden is too small right now, so the chaotic force within is limited. Although the consumption of chaotic force is very slow, the next invasion from the world of Forsaken Saints shouldn't be too far away. At that time, we'll definitely experience an even more intense and difficult battle. Jianqin sank into his thoughts. He did not choose to emerge from seclusion immediately. Instead, he continued to refine the energy crystal in his hand. After a few more days, the remaining energy crystal in Jianqin's hand finally vanished. However, after reaching the fifth layer of the chaotic body, the energy required to cultivate was several times or even over 10 times more than the fourth layer. As a result, when he completely refined the remaining 2/3 of the energy crystal, the chaotic force he obtained was extremely limited. It only made his chaotic Naiden grow to the size of half a bean. Sigh, the further chaotic force progresses, the more energy it requires. When my chaotic body was at the fourth layer, a single 10,000-year ice soul was enough for me to reach the peak of the fourth layer. Now that I'm at the fifth layer, I probably won't be able to reach the peak of the fifth layer even if I have 10,000-year ice souls. If I reach the sixth layer, even 100 of them won't be enough. Jianqin sighed inside. The chaotic body was indeed very powerful, but there was endless sorrow behind it. But I'm already a true, holy emperor now. I don't need the way of the sword or the azulite swords to possess the strength of a holy emperor. If I use my comprehension of the way of the sword, there shouldn't be any holy emperor who's my opponent. Coupled with the azulite swords, Jianqin sank into his thoughts. After a while, he slowly said, I should be able to fight against the Spirit King's clone. But the Spirit King's way of the sword is better than mine. The Spirit King... As soon as he thought of the Spirit King, Jianqin felt extremely pressured. The Spirit King was just too powerful. Just a clone required him, Shaoling and Poseidon to deal with him. If the Spirit King had come in person, even all the power of the Tianyuan continent would not have been enough to stop him. Although the Tianyuan continent had gained Origin Realm experts like Yonglai and Guihai Dao and 8 others who had yet to awaken, they had fallen from the Origin Realm to the Holy Emperor after all. Even with the assistance of saint artifacts, they could only be regarded as receival experts. The difference in strength between them and the Spirit King's original body was just too great, so they would not be of much help in a battle against the Spirit King, unless they recovered their peak strength and reached the Origin Realm again. Moreover, even if Guihai Dao and the others did reach the Origin Realm again, the world of Forsaken Saints had other Origin Realm experts aside from the Spirit King, and there would be more of them than the Tianyuan continent. I can already absorb the Yin and Yang Qi from the Yin Yang Saint Rock, but I still need the Heavenly Enchantress' help. Sigh. Jianqin felt both helpless and troubled when he thought of the Heavenly Enchantress. He gently shook his head and opened the door to the secret room. As the door opened, Jianqin immediately saw his sister, Changyang Mingyue, sitting outside. He was clearly stunned. Chapter 1437. Sister, How can I not listen to you? You told me to completely absorb the ice soul, so how can I disobey? I've already completely absorbed the ice soul you gave me. Jianchen bitterly smiled. He possessed the chaotic body, so the rate at which he refined energy was incomparable to regular cultivators. Not only had he completely absorbed the ice soul during his seclusion, but he had also absorbed the energy crystal of an origin realm Xianhuang beast. Are you serious? Brother, you've absorbed the ice soul so quickly? According to Protector Shui, even I would need several years to completely absorb a 10,000-year-old ice soul. How did you complete it in just a few short months? Changyang Mingyue was doubtful, but she soon seemed to think of something and came to a realization. She murmured to herself, I know. It must be because my brother's talent is far greater than ordinary people's, which is why he was able to absorb the ice soul in such a short amount of time. That also explains why his strength has increased so quickly. Jianchen smiled and did not explain in detail. He said, Sister, I've stayed here long enough. I plan on leaving today. As time goes on, the next invasion of the world of forsaken saints will draw closer and closer. I need to return to the Tianyuan continent to make preparations. But before I leave, I want to see Protector Shui. I have a few questions that I want to ask Senior Protector Shui. Changyang Mingyue also understood that the current situation on the Tianyuan continent was dangerous, so she did not try to keep Jianchen. She said, Brother, once my profound ice body matures, I'll go to the Tianyuan continent to find you. We'll fend off the invasion of the world of forsaken saints together. Let's go. I'll take you to see Protector Shui right now. Her strength is unfathomable, where even I can't sense her strength. If you have any questions about cultivation, feel free to ask her. With Changyang Mingyue personally leading the way, Jianchen obviously did not encounter any obstructions when he saw Protector Shui. Very soon, he saw the silver-armored Protector Shui in the room from before. Speak. What questions do you have? I can tell you some things that you should know for the sake of Her Majesty. Protector Shui coldly stared at Jianchen after bowing to Changyang Mingyue. Jianchen bowed towards Protector Shui. He did not beat around the bush and directly said, Senior, this world has been sealed up, preventing cultivators from reaching the origin realm. As a result, no origin realm experts have appeared in the 4 races since ancient times. May I ask if you were the one who cast down the seal? Although this world has been sealed, such that no one can reach the origin realm aside from clans with powerful bloodlines and innate spirits born from the world, your path is different. You don't need origin energy to reach the origin realm, so the seal can't stop you. Since it can't stop you, why are you sticking your nose into other people's business? There are some matters that you can't interfere with. Protector Shui coldly replied. However, this matter is related to my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather's strength has already reached the peak of the Holy Emperor, but he can't reach the origin realm because of this seal. He's bound by a lifespan of 10,000 years. As a result, this matter is related to me as well. At the same time, the Tianyuan continent is currently facing the threat of the world of forsaken saints. If we don't increase the number of origin realm experts, we definitely won't be able to stop their attacks. Senior, please remove the seal for the sake of all the people in this world, so that they can have a sliver of hope of reaching the origin realm. Jianchen sincerely pleaded. In his eyes, Protector Shui's strength was unfathomable. It was extremely likely that she was a godhood expert. If she did not remove the seal, Yang Lai and the others would never be able to reach the origin realm. Although he believed that he would possess enough strength to break through the seal after 10,000 years, the world of forsaken saints had quite a few origin realm experts. No one knew whether Yang Lai and the others would be able to last in the upcoming battle without dying. After all, they had already fallen to the origin realm. They could only use the power of the origin realm with their saint artifacts, but they were still existences at the bottom of the origin realm. Once they encountered a true origin realm expert, it would be very difficult for them to stop them. You can leave. I can't remove the seal, Protector Shui coldly replied. Jianqin's face was bitter. Although he already knew that this would be the outcome, he still felt extremely dejected. Once the seal was removed, Yanglai and Gui Haidao would still be able to reach the origin realm with their heritage, even if the world no longer had origin energy. This was because a portion of the origin energy that had been sealed in their saint artifacts was still present. If the seal was not removed, Yanglai and Gui Haidao would not be able to break through even if they possessed origin energy. Protector Shui, I order you to remove the seal immediately, Changyang Minghua said. She spoke in an unquestionable tone. Protector Shui did not dare to act as coldly as she did to Jianqin before Changyang Minghua. She gently sighed as a sliver of helplessness appeared in her cold eyes. She said, Your Majesty, I really can't remove the seal. Although I was the one who cast down the seal, it also contains Her Majesty's arrangements. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for the matters here to escape the divination of the experts of the saints' world. There are quite a few people in the higher world who want to find Your Majesty. Jianqin was disappointed when he heard that. He had never thought that the ice goddess would have cast down the seal. The ice goddess was a grand prime, a supreme expert who stood at the apex of the higher world. He probably would not be able to remove the seal personally cast down by such a powerful person even after 10,000 years. At the same time, he began to worry for Changyang Minghua. Jianqin left the ice goddess hall. Although he was unable to remove the seal, he had already confirmed the identity of the mysterious expert who cast down the seal. At the same time, he had found the answer to the lost history of the ancient era. It was definitely Protector Shui's doing. Her objective was to prevent anyone from entering the saint's world and leak the information, which would bring danger to his sister. Although this method of doing things was shocking and extremely cruel, it was related to his sister's safety. Jianqin was unable to determine whether Protector Shui's actions were right or wrong. If it were him, what would he do to protect the most important person in his heart? Jianqin left the icy plains and hurried back to the Tianyuan continent on his sword. However, at this moment, Jianqin suddenly stopped. He stared into the distance with a gleam of light in his eyes. He was on the wasteland continent. Even though he was extremely far away from the wasteland continent, Jianqin could still sense an extremely tremendous pulse from the direction of the wasteland continent. Over a dozen people from the 100 races have become emperors, and several dozen people have become kings at the same time. Jianqin murmured. He knew that Tai Ta must have used the violet cloud peaches to increase the strength of the peak experts of the 100 races, allowing all of them to break through. Chapter 1438. Jianqin returned to the Tianyuan continent and arrived in the Changyang prefecture of Lore City. Before long, a notice that shook up the entire continent was sent out from the Changyang prefecture of Lore City, causing a great commotion. All Heaven Saint Masters who had reached the 6th cycle of Heaven Saint Master would gather outside Lore City in 3 days. They would be given the opportunity to become Saint Rulers. All Saint Rulers who had comprehended Saint Tier battle skills or were at the 7th heavenly layer or above could gather outside Lore City in 3 days. They would be given the opportunity to become Holy Emperor. All Holy Emperor experts at the 8th heavenly layer or above would gather in the Changyang prefecture of Lore City in 3 days. They would be given the opportunity to become Saint Emperors. As soon as the 3 pieces of news were sent out from the Changyang prefecture of Lore City, they spread like wildfire across the entire continent. Whether it was the hermit clans, ancient clans, or the mysterious experts who spent most of their time in seclusion, they all received the news from their good friends. When they learnt about the news, all of their hearts were in turmoil. They were unable to calm down for a very long time. The current world lacked origin energy, so it was impossible for the Holy Emperor to break through to the origin realm. It was extremely difficult for the Holy Emperor to reach the level of Holy Emperor. There had been countless experts who had spent their entire lives trying, but they had all stopped at the level of Holy Emperor. On the current Tianyuan continent, there had almost been a lack of Holy Emperor experts. Only the Path Lord of carnal desires had created the 7 emotions and 6 desires to become a Holy Emperor, becoming the only supreme expert on the Tianyuan continent in the past. In the eyes of all the Holy Emperor experts on the Tianyuan continent, the path to becoming a Holy Emperor had been cut off long ago. Even if some of them had reached great perfection and were only a hair's breadth away from becoming a Holy Emperor, they would still end up as skeletons in the end. But now, Chongyang Prefecture in Lore City actually released news that some Holy Emperors were given a chance to become emperors. This immediately caused an uproar among the Holy Emperor realm group, causing countless people to be in an uproar. No one doubted the ability of the Chongyang Prefecture in Lore City because the Chongyang Prefecture was the clan of the human sovereign Jianchen. Moreover, the Holy Emperor experts that had been born on the Tianyuan continent a few months ago were all closely related to Jianchen. Everyone knew that the reason why these people had been able to increase their strength by leaps and bounds in such a short amount of time was all because of Jianchen's assistance. There were even a few Holy Emperors who had met the requirements, who constructed space gates and hurried to Chongyang Prefecture as soon as they received the news. At the same time, the Saint Rulers and Heaven Saint Masters who had met the requirements did not hesitate too much. As soon as they received the news, they all searched for nearby cities, sects, and clans that possessed space gates. They paid a great price to borrow space gates and hurried to Lore City as soon as possible. Just as the news that had shaken up the entire continent spread from Chongyang Prefecture, the 2 Holy Emperors in Chongyang Prefecture constructed space gates at the same time. They left excitedly and hurried to the Sea Realm and the Beast God continent. The 2 Holy Emperors were experts of the sea race and the magical beasts that had remained on the Tianyuan continent. They had been summoned back from Mercenary City by Jianchen and had been told to bring the same news back. Before long, the 2 experts reported the news to the Hall Master of the Poseidon Hall, Yadrium, and the Holy Emperor of the Peng clan, Tsongcheong, which greatly shocked the 2 of them. They immediately announced the news, spreading it across the entire Sea Realm and the Beast God continent. The Sea Realm and the Beast God continent began to fall into an uproar as well. The Holy Emperors who had met the requirements were all overjoyed. They found it difficult to contain their excitement, so they hurried to the Tianyuan continent eagerly. This time, not only did Jianchen want to increase the strength of the humans on the Tianyuan continent, he also invited the people of the Sea Realm and the magical beasts to participate in a major breakthrough. In just the first day, over 10,000 people gathered outside Lore City. They all stared at the city that was not particularly large in front of them with respect. These people were all people who had arrived on the first day. Most of them were Heaven Saint Masters, while only a small portion of them were Saint Rulers. There were even many Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers who had not met the requirements who had come to watch the show. They hoped that they would be chosen as an exception. All of them stood on the ground, including the Saint Rulers. No one dared to hover in the air. Even when they conversed, they purposefully kept their voices down. They did not make any loud noises, as if the city before them was a holy city where even Saint Rulers did not set foot in. They were camping out in the wilderness. Chongyang Prefecture was currently filled with the Holy Emperor experts of the 3 races. However, without any exception, all the Holy Emperor lowered their statuses. They were extremely humble and showed a sliver of respect. They did not even dare to offend a single servant in Chongyang Prefecture. A palace that seemed like an imperial palace stood in Chongyang Prefecture. It was majestic and was the most dazzling building in Chongyang Prefecture. This palace was Jianchen's personal residence in Chongyang Prefecture. Jianchen remained in the palace, busy with his heavenly resources. He did not come out to see anyone. During this time, many holy emperors wanted to see him politely, but they were all rejected. As a result, the palace he resided in became a sacred place in the hearts of many holy emperors. Even in the hearts of many holy emperors, the thought that anyone who could step into this palace would bring endless honor. At this time, a small team of holy emperors respectfully came to the palace where Jianqin resided. One of them said to the two servant girls standing at the door, "Taidu requests to see King Jianqin." After that, they bowed to the palace at the same time. Their expressions were full of respect from the bottom of their hearts. Around them, some holy emperors shook their heads when they saw the scene. They had already predicted the result. "Esteemed guests, please return. The fourth young master is not receiving guests." The two naturally beautiful servant girls smiled and repeated the same words they had said countless times. Every time they mentioned the fourth young master, the eyes of these two servant girls would reveal unconcealable adoration and worship, almost to the point of madness. "Come in." However, as soon as the two servant girls finished speaking, Jianqin's voice came from inside. Hearing this, the holy emperors suddenly trembled and turned to look at the several holy emperors standing at the door of the palace. Their eyes were filled with envy and some surprise. During this time, countless holy emperors had requested to see Jianqin. There were many holy emperors who were at the perfect holy emperor level. In the end, without exception, all of them were turned away at the door. They were the only holy emperor who had successfully requested to see the fourth young master. The two servant girls guarding the door were also stunned. Their eyes suddenly changed as they looked at the people in front of them. In the past, let alone holy emperors, even saint rulers would have been enough to make them shiver in fear. They would not even dare to breathe too loudly. However, only today did the two servant girls discover that the holy emperors did not seem like much. The people entered the palace. As soon as they saw Jianqin, who was tidying up the violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves, they immediately knelt down and politely said, "We greet the king." These people were the holy emperors of the Turtle Clan and the holy emperor of the Sea Race, Taidu, who had once submitted to Jianqin. Chapter 1439. Ruler, it doesn't matter if you're a part of our Turtle Clan or not. You will always be the most respected and greatest ruler in the hearts of all our clansmen. Our current glory is all thanks to you, ruler, an elder said passionately. He felt respect for Jianqin from the bottom of his heart. "Ruler, my life is yours. It doesn't matter if you're a human or a sea race. I, Taido, will always treat you as my master." Taido knelt on the ground with his head lowered as he said extremely seriously. Jianqin's gaze became rather mixed as he looked at the people before him. With a flip of his hand, a Niden appeared. Under Jianqin's control, it slowly hovered before the elders of the Turtle Clan. The elders of the Turtle Clan immediately stared at the small Niden. They could sense an extremely dense ruler's presence from it. I obtained this Niden back then, and it was exactly because of it that I possessed the ruler's presence of the Turtle Clan. This belongs to your Turtle Clan, so I'm returning it to you now, Jianqin softly said as he sighed inside. It was exactly because of the Niden that he had become connected to the Turtle Clan in the Sea Realm. It was also because of the Niden that the Grand Elder of the Turtle Clan had risked his life to save him. The Niden had added many stories to his travels in the Sea Realm. The elders knelt there politely. None of them extended their hands to take the Niden. Jianqin said when he saw this, "My karmic connection with your Turtle Clan is all because of this Niden. Now that the Turtle Clan has returned to its former glory, I've basically completed the Grand Elder's final wish. I will rarely go to the Turtle Clan in the future. Just treat this Niden as something I'm leaving to your Turtle Clan. After all, this Niden has accompanied me for quite some time." The Holy Emperor elders of the Turtle Clan were very dejected. They carefully accepted the Niden with heavy hearts. They held the Niden in their hands like it was a treasure, afraid that they would damage it. At this moment, this Niden had become a supreme treasure that surpassed everything else in their hearts. This was because this was something left behind by the greatest ruler in the history of the Turtle Clan. It was a personal item that had accompanied the ruler for some time. Although the Niden itself was not worth much, it held quite the significance to the Turtle Clan. You've all eaten the violet cloud peaches in the past and reached the level of Holy Emperor. The violet cloud peaches can only be eaten once every century, so you won't be able to take part in the opportunity to increase your strength this time, Jianqin said to them. Ruler, we've only come this time to personally see you. We have no other desires, an elder politely replied. He had no regrets. In fact, with their original strength, they were still very far away from the Holy Emperor realm. Some of them would never be able to enter the Holy Emperor realm in their entire lives, but the king had allowed them to become kings. This was already very satisfying for them. After all, reaching the Holy Emperor realm was very difficult right now. The Holy Emperor realm had basically reached the limit of cultivation. The elders of the Turtle Clan left. They did not remain in Chanyang Prefecture for long. Instead, they carefully returned to the clan with the Naiden that Jianqin had given them. They used all the power of the clan to hold an extremely grand ceremony and construct a sacred tower. They enshrined the Naiden at the very top of the sacred tower. Soon after the elders of the Turtle Clan left, Jianqin saw another familiar person. The beautiful Qing Yishuan in azure clothes had arrived in Chanyang Prefecture to see Jianqin. When they met again, Qing Yishuan had already broken through to Emperor. When she absorbed the violet cloud peach, she had clearly lost very little energy. Just a single first-grade violet cloud peach had allowed her to undergo a qualitative leap. Qing Yishuan sat in a chair across from Jianqin. She was melancholic, and there was a sliver of loneliness in her eyes. There was also a sliver of confusion. Have you gotten your revenge? Jianqin asked. Qing Yishuan shook her head and gently sighed. Her face was filled with indescribable mixed feelings. She gently said, My enemy from the past is already dead. He didn't die to my hands. Instead, he was slain by the experts of the world of forsaken saints in the battle against them. Even his corpse has disappeared. Qing Yishuan was rather dejected. She continued, Back when I was still a saint ruler, I was forced to flee to the sea realm by this enemy. I hid there for over 1,000 years, cultivating day and night diligently. I only hoped that I could return to the Tianyuan continent sooner to kill my enemy. Not long ago, I ingested the heavenly resources you gave me and broke through a few minor levels of cultivation. When I returned to the Tianyuan continent excitedly and found Yangji Zone, I discovered that the entire Yangji Zone only had a single great elder who was a holy emperor. The others were all dead. Qing Yishuan suddenly began to laugh foolishly when she reached there. She murmured to herself, Man proposes, but the heavens disposes. I never thought that the heavens would play a joke on me like this. I worked so hard in the past just so that I could personally kill my enemy one day. But in the end, my enemy was already dead by the time I possessed the strength to do so. He didn't die to my hands. If I had known earlier, why would I have worked so hard in the past? Qing Yishuan felt empty inside, as if she had lost all her goals. Your enemy is actually someone from Yangji Zone. What kind of deep grievances do you have with them? Jianqin asked in surprise. He had grievances with a few people from Yangji Zone in the past, but they were all dead now. Yangji Zone's Yang Yin wiped out my clan, Qing Yishuan said in low spirits. Jianqin remained silent. He stared at Qing Yishuan without saying anything. This is the Saint Tier battle skill I obtained from the treasury of the Tao family. I don't need it anymore, so I'll return it to you. Qing Yishuan left behind the stone slab with the Saint Tier battle skill inscribed on it before turning around and leaving. Her figure was bleak, carrying a trace of loneliness and desolation. Jianqin watched Qing Yishuan leave before gently sighing. With a wave of his hand, he stowed the Saint Tier battle skill away. The Flame Mercenaries just happened to need something like that. Over the past 3 days, experts from various places constantly arrived at Lore City. Not only did Lore City become the most famous city on the Tianyuan continent, but even the kingdom of Jessen benefited from it. Although the kingdom of Jessen was still nowhere near the strength of the 8 great nations, its status completely surpassed the 3 empires. Jianqin's uncle, Bai Dao, whom he had not seen in many years, had returned to Chanyang Prefecture as well. He had been hiding in a place no one knew about in the forest, completely isolated from the outside world. Only recently did he emerge from seclusion after completely refining the fragment of Venerable Poison Sword Soul. He had inherited Venerable Poison Sword's comprehension of the mysteries of the world. However, due to the fragmentation of Venerable Poison Sword Soul, he only inherited a portion of his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. He was unable to reach the peak of his strength when he was alive, only at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Tianmu Ling had come as well. Jun Moheo and Wang Yinhong followed her closely. Clearly, they loved their great-granddaughter very much. Tianmu Ling met with Jianqin without any obstructions. She told him that the Holy Emperor of the Tianmu clan was already dead. Jun Moheo and Wang Yinhong were the 2 most powerful people in the clan now. Their status as an ancient clan was in danger. Jianqin naturally understood what Tianmu Ling was trying to say. She promised that she would definitely help Jun Moheo and Wang Yinhong reach Saint King. 3 days passed very quickly. Jianqin had also tidied up the violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea trees, stacking them neatly in his space ring. He had obtained a total of 4 first-grade violet cloud peach trees in the Xianhuang microcosm. There were 3 second-grade violet cloud peaches, 2 third-grade violet cloud peaches, 2 fourth-grade violet cloud peaches, and 3 fifth-grade violet cloud peaches. There were 108 fruits on each tree, so there were 432 first-grade violet cloud peaches, 324 second-grade violet cloud peaches, 324 third-grade violet cloud peaches, 324 fourth-grade violet cloud peaches. Chapter 1440. Compared to the violet cloud peaches, there were far fewer comprehension tea trees. Jianqin had only obtained 3 first-grade immortal tier comprehension tea trees and a 5th-grade immortal tier comprehension tea tree. Each tree had 81 leaves, and Jianqin only had a small portion of the 5th-grade comprehension tea tree left. The difference between the number of violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves is far too great. At the same time, basically all the Holy Emperor of the humans, sea race, and magical beasts have gathered in Chanyang Prefecture. Although many Holy Emperors haven't met the requirements, there are still over 100 people who have reached the 8th heavenly layer or higher. That requires over 100 violet cloud peaches. And among these people, some of their talent isn't as great as Qing Yishuan's. So quite a lot of the energy in the peaches will be wasted. In order for them all to reach the Holy Emperor level, I need to give them first-grade peaches or higher, Jianqin murmured to himself as he frowned slightly. Moreover, there are already several thousand saint rulers who have met the requirements. It's not enough to give everyone a single violet cloud peach. As for Heaven Saint Masters, there are even more, over 10,000 of them. Looks like other than the Holy Emperor who has met the requirements, all the Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers will have to share one each. However, we need to nurture those with great potential first. 3 days later, Jianqin finally emerged from the hall under the expectant gazes of all the Holy Emperor. He appeared before everyone. Today was the 3rd day Jianqin had agreed to with everyone. As a result, all the Holy Emperor from the 3 races gathered before the entrance of the hall where Jianqin stayed. They all eagerly stared at the closed door. As soon as Jianqin appeared before everyone, all their eyes lit up. They all bowed towards Jianqin politely. Greetings to Sovereign Jianqin. Greetings to the Sovereign of the humans. All the Holy Emperor present showed respect from the bottom of their hearts. The law of the world was that the strong were respected. This was respect for Jianqin's strength. At the same time, Jianqin had killed many foreign saint emperors all by himself in the battle against the world of forsaken saints. He had performed a great service in protecting the Tianyuan continent. Just that was enough for everyone to worship him. Nearby, the group of senior members of the Changyang clan stood there. They all smiled as they watched this happen. Bai Yuntian and Changyang Ba's eyes were brimming with tears. This was because the person who was receiving the greetings of the Holy Emperor was their child. Jianshin's third brother, Changyang Ku, was in the crowd as well. He watched this silently with mixed feelings. He was filled with envy, but there was also a sliver of sadness and disappointment in his eyes. Out of Changyang Ba's 4 brothers, the eldest had been chosen by the Pure Heart Pavilion and brought back to the Protector clan. The second sister was the mysterious Holy Maiden of the Ice Goddess Hall, possessing a great status. The 4th brother was the greatest human expert, an existence that had surpassed the Holy Emperor. He was revered by all the Holy Emperors. Only he remained unknown. Even though he had become a saint ruler from the Violet Cloud Peach, he still felt like he was the same as before. Even though he had become a saint ruler, he was still an unknown figure. Bai Dao also stared at the white-robed Jianshin from the crowd. He smiled and was filled with pride. Changbo, Changyang Zuyin Shao, Changyang Zhu Shao, and the others were the same. They all stared at Jianshin quietly. Jianshin looked around and clasped his fist at everyone. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he directly got to the main topic. Everyone, I'm sure you all know that I possess a heavenly resource that can rapidly increase your strength. I used this heavenly resource a few days ago to allow my friends and family to break through to Saint King and Saint King. It's just a pity that I don't possess such a heavenly resource. I haven't obtained many heavenly resources like that, but the invasion from the world of forsaken saints is imminent. I'm willing to share some heavenly resources with everyone so that everyone can break through, said Jianshin. Sovereign Jianshin, sure, is magnanimous. We're probably all trying to hide such a heavenly resource for ourselves. Yet, Sovereign Jianshin is actually willing to give it to us. I admire your magnanimity. Sovereign Jianshin, I may be a magical beast, but if I can become a Saint King and survive the war against the world of forsaken saints, I'm willing to join Changyang Prefecture and become the protector beast of Changyang Prefecture. Sovereign Jianshin, if you can help me become a Saint King, I will follow you in life and death. I will never betray you. The blood of many holy emperors began to boil. Their faces became bright red as they all swore to the heavens. They struggled to remain calm. Among them, although they were all at the 8th or 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, they did not have much time left. Their hopes of becoming a Saint King had been severed, so Jianshin's words had given them a sliver of hope. Once they became a Saint King, not only would their strength undergo an overwhelming change, their lifespan would increase by another 4,000 years. Most importantly, their chances of survival in the next war against the world of forsaken saints would be greater if they became a Saint King. As a result, some of them were even willing to sacrifice the lower half of their bodies to become a Saint King. Although these people seemed foolish, they were actually clever people. They knew that the Holy Emperor still had a very long path ahead of him. Even within the Origin Realm, there were differences in strength. If they could follow an Origin Realm expert with limitless potential, it would be extremely beneficial to their future cultivation. Afterward, Jianshin began to distribute the Violet Cloud Peaches. Since the weakest of these people was at the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, they were not far away from the Holy Emperor, so he only gave out 2nd and 3rd grade Violet Cloud Peaches, so that they could all become Saint Kings. As for the comprehension tea leaves, he took out 30 first grade comprehension tea leaves and boiled them into a cauldron of tea. He distributed it equally to each person. Afterward, Jianshin personally led them to an ancient forest so that they could break through. Several days later, a huge swathe of 9-colored clouds enveloped the entire continent. The clouds were very thick, composed of over 100 layers. They shone with endless light as they flickered in the surroundings. With the help of the Violet Cloud Peaches, the Holy Emperor from the humans, sea race, and magical beasts all successfully became Saint Kings, becoming an extremely powerful force on the Tianyuan continent. At the same time, in a certain miniature world on the Tianyuan continent, the pale-faced Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, healed in a secret room. He was completely naked, and in the corner of the room lay several naked, bloodied young women. They were no longer breathing. Suddenly, the Path, Lord opened his eyes. Immediately, 2 streaks of light shot out, seemingly piercing through space and allowing him to see the world outside. Over 100 Saint Emperors. The Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, said with a heavy voice. His eyes were filled with shock, but his face soon sank. When I broke through to Holy Emperor, it really was extremely difficult. I spent my entire life creating my way of 7 emotions and 6 desires before successfully becoming a Holy Emperor. Yet now, with Genshin's assistance, these people have easily broken through the bottleneck that I had spent my entire life on. Genshin, I curse you to die a horrible death. The Path, Lord gritted his teeth. The Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, said through gritted teeth. His sinister face was already twisted, filled with a strong sense of unwillingness and jealousy. Chapter 1441. Why? Why did it take me several thousand years to become a Holy Emperor? Yet these people only need a few short days to become a Holy Emperor. Even a few 8th heavenly layer Holy Emperors can break through in just a few short days, reaching the 9th heavenly layer and great perfection in one go. In the past, I used my comprehension of the cultivation method of the Pure Heart Pavilion to create a different path of cultivation, allowing me to become the only human Holy Emperor on the Tianyuan continent. Yet now, over 100 Holy Emperors have appeared all of a sudden, and they've become Emperors so easily. Why? Why did it take me so much effort to become a Holy Emperor while they became Emperors so easily? This is unfair to me. I refuse to accept this. The Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, roared as he sat in the chamber. His face was already twisted, and with a hint of evil around him. He looked incredibly ferocious at that moment. Genshin, it's all your fault. You caused all of this. It's fine if you cultivate so quickly, but you just had to let so many people who have nothing to do with you become emperors, making my several thousand years of cultivation become worthless. You're purposefully targeting me. The Path, Lord gritted his teeth. The Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, gritted his teeth. His voice was filled with resentment. He placed all the blame on Genshin. Originally, he was the only human Holy Emperor on the Tianyuan continent. Even the 10 Protector clans with a history of 1,000,000 years did not dare to offend him so easily. He was renowned across the continent, and he was the greatest human expert in both name and reality. However, everything changed with Genshin's appearance. Not only did he steal the title of the greatest human expert and become the sovereign of the human race, worshipped by everyone, Genshin had actually allowed so many people to become Holy Emperors, causing several dozen Holy Emperors to appear on the Tianyuan continent all of a sudden. As a result, the Path Lord status on the Tianyuan continent fell time and time again, becoming worse with each passing day. I want to break through. I want to surpass the Holy Emperor and become a sovereign of the Origin Realm. Today, I will completely sever my emotions and desires so that my way of the 7 emotions and 6 desires can reach full mastery. Madness filled the Path Lord's eyes. With a raise of his hand, a supreme force smashed through the stone door of the room, and he walked out. This was a minor world created by the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. Not many people lived here, only a few thousand. Aside from a few dozen of the Path Lord's wives and close to 100 of his children, the rest were disciples of the sect he had created, the Carnal Desires sect. The sect of Carnal Desires had been founded by the Path Lord several thousand years ago. All of them cultivated in miniature worlds, rarely venturing out. As a result, they were not well known on the Tianyuan continent. Many people did not even know that such a sect existed. The place where the Path Lord cultivated was not far away from the sect. As soon as he emerged, 2 middle-aged men heard the commotion and flew over from afar. They bowed towards the Path Lord and said politely, Greetings, Path Lord! The two middle-aged men were both saint rulers. They were the only two saint rulers in the sect of Desires. They were the strongest experts in the sect aside from the Path Lord, and they practiced the Path Lord's way of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The Path Lord was emotionless. His eyes were filled with emotionlessness and coldness. In particular, he looked at the two middle-aged men like he was looking at 2 dead people. Suddenly, the Path Lord silently appeared before the 2 middle-aged men. He pressed down on their heads, and with a bang, the 2 men's heads immediately exploded. Their souls were wiped out, having been mercilessly slain by the Path Lord. The Path Lord's expression did not change at all. He looked at the nearby sect of Desires and strode through the air, making his way there at a steady pace. There were several thousand disciples in the sect of Desires. Although they practiced the Path Lord's way of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, it was not suitable for everyone. As a result, even though the cultivation method they practiced was created by the Holy Emperor, a Holy Emperor had never appeared in the sect of Desires in the past several thousand years. The strongest of them were saint rulers. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires entered the sect of Carnal Desires. Looking at the familiar sect before him, he murmured, "The 7 emotions are joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, evil, and desire. The 6 desires are life, death, ears, eyes, mouth, and nose." Currently, this Tao Lord has understood all of the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and has created the 7 emotions and 6 desires palm. However, this Tao Lord still has a few more obstacles to sever. It's not that I can't sever them, but that this Tao Lord feels that the time isn't right, so I don't want to sever them. Perhaps it's because I've been trapped by the desires that I haven't severed, so I haven't been able to make up my mind to sever them. But now I have to make the final decision. I have to sever them immediately so that I can undergo the greatest refinement and surpass the Holy Emperor. The Path Lord's voice vanished from the entrance of the sect of Desires. Before long, cries filled with fear and disbelief rang out from the sect. "Path Lord, what are you doing? Wu Lin is innocent. He has never done anything to harm the sect. Why do you want to kill him? Spare us, spare us, spare us. Path Lord, why do you want to kill us? Everyone run. The Path Lord has gone mad. The Path Lord is massacring us. The Path Lord was mercilessly massacring the disciples of the sect of Desires. All the disciples he came across along the way either had their heads crushed or their necks snapped. No one could escape from the Path Lord's demonic grasp. Gradually, the ground became dyed red with blood. The smell of blood filled the air as more and more corpses fell to the ground. The cries alarmed the entire sect. Very soon, all the disciples learnt that the Path Lord had gone mad. They immediately fled outside in fear, but the sect had already been sealed off by a powerful barrier. In the end, not a single disciple managed to escape. They all launched powerless attacks at the barrier in despair. The Path Lord's body was covered in blood. At this moment, he looked like a bloody man. This was the blood of the dead disciples of the Carnal Desires Tao sect. With the Path Lord's strength, he could have wiped out the entire sect with a single wave of his hand, but he did not do that. Instead, he personally took action, sending the disciples of the sect to their deaths one by one. The Path Lord did not go mad. His eyes were clear and filled with decisiveness. Every time he killed someone, he would carefully comprehend it and carry out the final process of self-destruction. There were many ways to sever one's emotions and desires. There was no need to sacrifice the lives of others to reach perfection, but the Path Lord just happened to choose the cruelest method. Before long, the entire sect was covered in corpses. Not a single person was left alive. They had all been personally slain by the Path Lord. After personally wiping out the sect he had founded, the Path Lord looked towards the depths of the miniature world. There was a resplendent hall there. It was the Path Lord's residence. Several dozen of his wives and close to 100 of his children lived there. The Path Lord made his way to the residence in the depths of the miniature world entering and exiting the various halls. He had completely turned into a heartless person. He mercilessly buried his past lovers and children, causing a series of terrified cries to ring out in the residence. Many people in the residence learned that the Path Lord had gone mad. They all fled from the residence, flying off in all directions. However, they were unable to leave the miniature world, no matter where they fled. In the end, several hundred people in the residence, including the female servants, had all died. Whether it was the Path Lord's wives or his children, the youngest of which was not even 10 years old. After ending everyone's lives, the Path Lord's gaze became cold. There was nothing in his eyes, but they were also filled with everything in the world. He had fused with a certain way of the world. With a flash, he arrived in a mausoleum. Several dozen mausoleums had been constructed there, and they were all buried with the Path Lord's loved ones. They were either his past concubines or his children. Basically, they had all passed away because they were nearing the end of their lives. The Path Lord stared at the mausoleum coldly without any hesitation. He raised his hand and pressed down. Immediately, an extremely huge hand appeared out of nowhere, slamming down heavily on the mausoleum. With a heavy sound, the mausoleum vanished, turning into a palm-shaped black hole that was several hundred meters deep. The final step, severing life and death. The Path Lord sat down in the air. He remained emotionless as he murmured, "Life is life, and from life comes the 7 emotions and 6 desires. I've severed all of them apart from life and death. With the 7 emotions and 6 desires gone, life no longer exists. All that remains is death. Severing life and death, completely stripping away the impurities and leaving behind the very beginning. Return to me, my true body. For the final slash, I will use the palm of 7 emotions and 6 desires to sever the impurities in my soul and the distracting thoughts in my heart." The Path Lord of carnal desires slowly raised his hand. An invisible heavenly blade had already condensed in his hand before slashing viciously at his soul. The blade was formed from his palms of 7 emotions and 6 desires. It did not harm the body, only the soul. The blade flashed past the Path Lord's soul, leaving behind a hazy speck of soul light. Immediately, the Path Lord's soul weakened by half, becoming extremely feeble. The Path Lord of carnal desires trembled violently. The slash was extremely painful for him as well. His soul had been injured. However, after the slash, his soul became even more translucent. The impurities and impurities in his soul were all separated from his soul with the slash.